5, 4, 3, 2.
Good evening, everyone. This is the meeting of the Franklin School Board. This meeting is being held at the Franklin High School cafeteria on August 23rd, 2021. This board did conduct a non-public meeting at 5:30, and we are now into our regular board meeting, and the time being is 6:03. And before we start, we do have one item that we need to take care of. A vote needs to be made based upon a non-public item that was discussed, and we need to take a vote on that at this time. So if someone would like to make a motion.
I move that we accept the student that was here earlier.
We do waive the policy first?
You gotta wait, we had to do the waiving first.
Somebody else did.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to waive our policy on accepting students into the SAU from outside our district.
I second that.
Delaney's made the motion to waive the tuition policy for students that come from another district to our district. That was
I want to put it in, it's JFAB.
JFAB is the policy. That was seconded by Christine. Do I have any discussion on that motion that was made? Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, and the policy is waived. I will now take a motion on the second motion. Paul, do you want to make that now?
I lost my place.
Okay. The motion's been made to accept a student that was presented to the school board in a non-public. This will be a 10th grade student. Do I have a second?
Do we have to include the
Second by-
tuition part in
No.
that? No.
Second by Maureen. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, and the student is accepted into Franklin High School. Superintendent Gallo will make notification to the parent. Okay, at this time, if we can stand for the salute of the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Colleen, was our meetings posted as is required? Thank you very much. At this time, we have an agenda item 2 is an introduction. I will turn that introduction over to Superintendent Gallo.
Well, I am very pleased tonight to introduce you to our new assistant principal at the Paul Smith School, Nicole Mazzi. So Nicole, welcome to the Franklin School District. We're very excited to have you here. I know Sue's the most excited person in the room. So welcome.
Thank you.
On behalf of being the chair of the Franklin School Board, and on behalf of this Franklin School Board, we'd like to welcome you to the Franklin School District and wish you the best on your upcoming year with Sue at Paul Smith School.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 3 is public participation. During public participation, I allow anybody to address the board with any issue that they may have. I ask that you please keep your public comments to 3 minutes. Okay, and I give no more than 30 minutes during this public participation. I do have a second public participation that we have at the end of the evening, which is agenda item 12. Well, for some reason, we get to the 30 minutes, we try to keep it flowing nicely. I may have to stop that public participation, and then you'd have to wait till the end of the evening on the second public participation. When you address the board, if you could just state your full name and what ward you live in. Okay, so your full name and what ward you live in. So who would like to address the board this evening? Anybody? Mr. Webb, I know you want to.
I'm never embarrassed to be first. Lee Webb, Ward 3, and I'm not What do you want me to be
Just
in the
want to see a
middle?
little closer.
Where's
to
the
you.
little
That's it.
T that I'm
That's
using?
There you go,
right,
you're
yeah, we
good.
have to make a little X. You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not here as a parent. I never had children, but I understand the importance of where the school goes, so goes the community. And I know that you're going to be discussing tonight mask policies. And there are a lot of things, there are a lot of unanswered questions at this point. And I know Superintendent Legallo has been trying to keep on top of the number of active COVID cases, but I understand you don't really know how many of those are Delta-related or other variant-related. So there is a risk, and it has been heightened recently, and obviously you need to take that into consideration. If you have a voluntary mask policy, there will be some that will not want to wear masks, and those who do may come under some duress from their peers. So obviously you need to watch out for that. Considering that we do not have yet an approved vaccine for those under 12, all of those children are at risk. There is no question that they are at risk. And anything and everything that this school board can do to minimize that risk is obviously within your purview. I hope that that we can find an approved vaccine quickly for those under 12, but yet even then, there will be a time lapse until administration can be achieved at significant numbers, which will provide enough immunity for the larger or majority of the students. I would hope that as part of your mask policy, especially those that are working in the middle school and Paul Smith School, that you mandate at least masks for teachers and staff. That adds another level or modicum of protection. And it's just, there's so much to consider here. And if the students are at risk, any of them, the community is at risk, and we have to keep that in mind. And I'm trying to keep this real brief, Jim, so I think that's it. And maybe if something else occurs to me, I can come back in the second section. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Is there anybody else who would like to address the board this evening? Seeing none, I will close public participation of agenda item 3, and we will now move on to agenda item 4, which is recognition. Do we have any recognitions to be brought forward this evening? I do have a recognition.
I do.
Thank you. I want to recognize Jewel Finley.
You stole my thunder.
I knew I was going to steal somebody's. Jewel directed the last Footlight Theater production of Disaster. If you did not get an opportunity to see it, you missed probably, by far, I've been to many shows that Jewel will tell you, and that was probably by far one of the best shows I've attended. Jewel put in endless hours with many students throughout the school district that were part of the Disaster play. That did a phenomenal job. So I want to recognize Jewel Finley for the continuing outstanding job that she does on the theater program and the productions that she does, both for the Franklin School District and the City of Franklin. So Jewel, tremendous job again. Thank you very much.
I think we have to add in at least the fact performances from this last weekend as well. It's always amazing to see what you do with 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 hours a day to put on a performance like that. So thank you again.
Deb, I know you couldn't hear, but what you say was recognizing for the fax productions that were done over this past weekend. That Jewel does 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, Jewel?
Yep, it was 10 days.
For 10 days, put it together, and they had the fax presentation this weekend, so. Superintendent Legallo, you know.
Yes, I want to recognize this administrative team in the room. We have been going at it for 17 straight months with the pandemic. And we thought we were going to get a reprieve this summer. And here we are on August 23rd, and it doesn't look like we're getting a reprieve. So I just want to acknowledge all of your hard work, all of your commitment, all of your flexibility this summer as plans changed and as things developed, and as things will continue to develop. There is no better team I could be working with than the people in this room to figure out what we need to do next to make things happen for our kids. So I want to recognize all of you for all of that, the good work you've done and the good work you'll continue to do to get us through this pandemic. So to you guys, thanks.
Is there any other? Principal Darsney.
Thank you, Ken Darcy, Franklin Middle School Principal. I actually have 3 recognitions that I really can't leave this meeting without talking about. The first of which is the staff that worked in our summer program, and I'm sure that Susan agrees, and so does Carrie, that the people that worked in the summer, after all these months of working tirelessly, month after month after month, they had Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday off. No, I'm sorry, they had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, and then started again for 6 weeks in the summer for 4 days a week, for 23 days all the summer. And I want to take a minute and recognize our staffs for doing that. That's number one. Number two, Dan Clark and the custodians. Our places are gleaming. Our floors are, you can shave and the floors are so clean. What the custodians have done to prepare our schools really, really can't be beat. And last but not least, I want to recognize the happiest people on earth, the food service staff, who are still working every single day preparing food for our community and putting them on buses. I see the buses leaving the school every single morning, as they will be for the rest of this week and continuing on. So I really want to talk about that. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Darsney. Are there any other recognitions that would like to be brought forward this evening?
So he stole my thunder, and I
Sorry.
was going to do it during my principal's report. No, it is absolutely fine, but all of the people that, and it is in my report that he has recognized, but particularly the summer school teachers who worked tirelessly with enthusiasm and effort for the 66 children. So I need to emphasize that between preschool, Chrissy Brown, and all of the teachers at Paul Smith School who serviced our children. We had 66 children who attended summer school this summer, and they did an absolutely outstanding job. So thank you to all of them.
Any other recognitions this evening?
I would like to echo Sue and Ken's sentiments around the summer school programming. It was amazing, and I appreciate everyone that showed up. They worked so hard, and it couldn't have gone as well as it did, honestly. So a big thank you to staff.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And I'm going to echo on to that.
Go ahead, Carrie.
When we talked about a summer school program at the high school, being able to do that again, because it's new for us to be able to do that, I had 13 staff members that reached out to Tim and I, and they're like, we're in. That was way before the school board had decided to increase the stipend. They were already planning what needed to happen over the summer before we needed to know, so we could send the survey out to parents. And we had over 50 students participate in summer school, and I had 13 staff. It was amazing.
This is your first year, Carrie, for the
Yeah, last
summer
year
program,
we had
right?
like a grant, so we had about 14 kids that participated. This was our first robust summer school program. It was, I'll talk more about it when we get to my principal
You
report.
had 50
but
students?
It was, we had 50 students. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other recognitions this evening? All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to close that item. Agenda item 4 is closed. We'll move on to agenda item 5. Approval of our prior board minutes, which would be for our special meeting that was held on July 1st, 2021. We need approval on those minutes. So moved by Paul Doucette. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Deb. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have some discussion. There were only 5 people that showed up.
Thank you.
Just barely had a quorum when I came through the door.
Any other discussions on the board minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. We have agenda item 6. Agenda item 6 is New Hampshire Forward New Hampshire, or Franklin High School manufacturing update, and I'll turn that over to Superintendent
Yes,
Gallo.
thank you. So it's my pleasure to, we've been talking about our manufacturing initiative for over a year, and I've been kind of keeping the board in the loop about what's happening. And I felt it was time to bring the people behind the scenes who actually made this happen to you tonight, so they can give you a presentation about where we are and where we're going. So I'm going to invite up Ken and Pecco and Joe and George. I know Joe Brown couldn't be here, but if you want to bring your chairs up, guys, and come on, Ken's going to lead us, I think, but it's important for the board to know what's happening, where we're going, and how hard this group has worked to make this happen. It's pretty exciting stuff.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to share some of these.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, nice to see everybody today. My name is Ken Wells, and I'm the president of New Hampshire Forward. Before that, I was a state representative, and before that, I was a teacher for 37 years, teaching physics, mechanical engineering, math, robotics, and stuff like that. And one of the things I learned as a teacher, actually one of the best experiences, is being in front of a classroom teaching 14, 15-year-olds, and you tell them something and you see kids' eyes light up and say, oh my gosh, I can do that. In fact, I could make my living doing this. You know, I could make that a career. And you know, that's something that's really a magical thing about that age group. And I think that we are missing an opportunity in this country because we don't look at career education until later. And we approach it a different way. And so in conversations with my friend Pecco Bofe, who's a product of the German dual system apprenticeship, we talked about whether there was a way that we could institute that in New Hampshire. I'm so confused about which way I should be facing in this room.
We can hear you no matter what.
Okay, great. And if you can't, I can project. So you know. But there are two features to this apprenticeship system that are really unique. First of all, it's industry sponsored. Okay, so it can be done without taxpayer expense. It also means that students and their families don't need to go into debt in order to further their education after secondary school. And the other part of it that's really important is this is career training as opposed to job training. Too often we think of job training, learning how to operate a piece of equipment or something like that as all you really need. But there's no security in that. That's not preparation for a career, a lifelong career with advancement and so forth. And so an education that includes, say, an associate's degree from community college, includes several years of on-the-job training, and includes a very broad education, not just about learning to use one piece of equipment, but rather to learn all the aspects of an industry, of a business, learning everything from the manufacturing processes and the marketing and the business is really important to make sure that we're giving kids an education that's going to last throughout their career. Because this dual system includes both academic work and on-the-job training, and the standards are determined by the industry itself, the students are guaranteed that what they're learning is going to be relevant, and it's going to be future focused, with the guidance of the industry. On your little handout, I have a couple of little pictures, and I just want to explain something from my understanding of what high school and life beyond looks like. To a lot of families and a lot of students, they see a bunch of obstacles ahead of them that looks like this. And I hope that there's made it around someplace. The difficulty is there are a lot of pitfalls, a lot of uncertainties where you don't know what you're going to do after high school if you know that your family can't afford tuition for a secondary, post-secondary education. You don't know that if you go to community college and study something that you think is really interesting, whether that is actually going to turn into a career, into a job. I'm saying this as the father of a daughter who got a BFA in fine arts. Hard to find a job after that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create a thing that looks more like this ramp down here. We're trying to create an on-ramp in high school for students to experience something about what advanced manufacturing is about, and establish a relationship with the manufacturers here in Franklin, and understand that if they get onto this process, they have an opportunity to get college credit while in high school. They can continue that into community college, and the industries will pick up the tuition costs. And the industries will also see to their on-the-job training and offer them a job at the conclusion of all of that. So we think it's a much better way of presenting it to students and their families, because they know that if they can get onto the on-ramp, there's a road that will take them to a career. So I just wanted to point out that we, the board of directors of New Hampshire Forward, are mostly local. But several folks with me today. I also wanted to point out that our newest board member, and a little more recognition for Jewel, she's joined our advisory board. I think I'll stop talking and see if you have questions that I or some of the representatives that we have today from New Hampshire Forward here. I think that Dan or Joe Smith, who's the department chair at Lake Region Community College, teaching advanced manufacturing. A couple of board members, Pekka Beaufet and George Zuna, who you may know, he's a Franklin business. So, yeah.
Ken, if I can maybe just take, Joe Brown couldn't be here today, and this is actually Joe Brown's baby, I would say, okay? She couldn't be here today because there was a city council meeting at 6 o'clock. So she sent me this in the email, so I just wanted to read some of her thoughts, okay? School board members, as you are aware, this manufacturing initiative has been evolving since Manufacturing Night on October 19th. Prior to that, our Designing Franklin's Education for the 21st Century helped provide understanding of issues faced by the school and the faculty. It also helped to build a positive opportunity for dialogue that has enabled the city, SAU, and LRCC to work in collaboration and quickly bringing in manufacturing curriculum into our high school. As you know, manufacturing classes led by Joseph Smith, department chair of the Advanced Manufacturing Program at LRCC, started last spring, and he will continue this fall. These dual credits in themselves enhance the job opportunities for all students completing them. This is an exciting time for our students as we work together to implement a real opportunity for them to move on from high school and an enticing and substantial career that can potentially provide manufacturing opportunities worldwide. Thank you for your support of this program, Joe Brown. I just want to add, as part of the board, this is, I got excited about it when I heard this, because this is a great opportunity, because we have 3 major manufacturers here in New Hampshire, and they're all on board with this. They all are buying into this because they know what the German American Chamber of Commerce can bring to a organization. And the other big thing that I see as a positive is our high school is a open enrollment high school. We can draw people from all over. It really doesn't matter because of that open enrollment. And when the kids get on this path of this learning path, they're guaranteed a job to start at $21 an hour from Watts or Vitech or PCC Structurals. And again, they're eligible for to have their education paid for also. Thank you very much.
So I just wanted to introduce myself real quick. I'm Joseph Smith. I'm the Department Chair of Advanced Manufacturing and Electrical at Lakes Region Community College. And I just wanted to take a minute and explain kind of what I'm doing at Franklin High School. So I'm teaching the course the first time around with the teacher and the students. So I'm teaching the teacher and the students as an early college course. So the students are getting college credits for that course. And then after that, the next time around, the teacher's taking it over, and they're teaching it as a running start course. And the students are also getting college credits for that course. And in the plan now, we are lining up 4 courses a year. So that's 4 courses, 3 credits each 3 college credits each for each course that the students are getting. So,
Echo, let's hear from you.
A quiet one.
Okay, he's very quiet.
I'm the quiet introvert who started his first business when he was 6 years old. It was a consulting company to teach teachers how to treat me. And following the career in a small town, 2 elementary schools, over 4 years switching schools 4 times, gave me credit for my success in my young company. Number one, I got to say one thing out of this experience I've had the last year and a half since Joe Brown pushed me. I got to first congratulate you all, because you have the talent to have a gentleman working for this school district who is absolutely fantastic. And then we wouldn't be here without you. You really did a good job. So explaining this system, this dual system, and why I'm so crazy about it is because I was this kind of a child who knew in class that I knew everything better than any teacher, and that being on a chair is really like being in prison. So I needed to get out and do something else. And my mother got me a job in one of the best hotels in the world, and I did a cook apprenticeship program. Afterwards, thank God in Europe this is offered. There were several other schools following them with further education up to Cornell University in the United States. And I ended up running for Lufthansa German Airlines, the luxury hotel company for North and South America, out of New York City. And at that time, and this is the best example how that system works, the 21 top deluxe hotels in New York City were run by Austrians, Swiss, and Germans who all had left school when they were 14 years old, 15 years old, went to an apprenticeship and to vocational school. The Americans who did high school and university were allowed to run Sheratons and Marriotts, where we wouldn't even go into to have a cup of coffee. So, this system, the German-American Chamber of Commerce in New York offers this program for the United States. They're very successful in the Chicago area and the Georgia area. In Chicago, they have over 2,000 students enrolled in the program. And what we are attempting to do is to get Franklin to be the pilot project for the state of New Hampshire. When you look at the state of New Hampshire and all the different programs which are being tried out, number one, the abuse of the name apprenticeship in America is horrible. Apprentices in America, you understand, are cheap labor. Actually, in a company, an apprentice is the most expensive laborer because he is being paid, but he's not allowed to work because he's only learning. So the government is right now, the state government is right now putting $4.5 million into a budget to start an apprenticeship program for New Hampshire but they want to do this in community colleges. Kids are 21, 22, 23 years old. They have the first bad experiences in their lives. Some of them are already parents. They go to the community college because they can't do anything else. And the kids who really need the help and who really appreciate the help are the high school kids who sit in high school and are not being offered an alternative. So you have the kids in high school, and I know this because my wife was until this summer a high school teacher. They sit in class with the kids who want to go to university and study, but they sit there and say, why am I all going to learn this? This is not going to pay for my life. So when you catch them in high school with 14, 15 years old, and you offer them the possibility to learn for their career and to get them advanced so that after the high school they have already their community college credits, a big part of them, and then have a guarantee of a job of the companies who are working with them during the high school time, that's where you really can change and get kids out of poverty and out of bad experiences in their life, in my opinion. And that's why I'm pushing for this for the last 5 years in the state, and because of Joe Brown, we have the last year and a half spoken just with Franklin. So.
Thank you. I know on a personal, I've attended some of these meetings. I've had the opportunity, and I've had a free moment to attend some of these meetings. I know with Joe through LRCC, and when this board approved a couple of the manufacturing classes, and we had a huge success at that at the high school, enough that we approved even more classes to come on next year with Joe through LRCC. Some of you may remember, some of you may not, but just before the pandemic hit, we brought industries into the school. We had 5 different manufacturing companies that came into the high school here during a lunch period, talked about their organization or their businesses and their manufacturing, and all of them offered the opportunity for our students to go do field trips into the schools, or into the manufacturing, excuse me. And pretty much all of them were completely filled up with students to go, okay? And then obviously, pandemic hit, all the manufacturers had to cancel out of it. But when I came and listened, and I came to all 5 of them to listen to their presentations, when I saw the excitement of our students to do this, it was amazing. So I know Dan and Joe have worked endlessly and tirelessly on this for quite a period of time. Dan gives regular updates on the manufacturing, how manufacturing is going at our city council. So I've been very impressed and very happy to see where this has all moved forward, and I'm sure that the success of this is going to continue. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for anybody from the New Hampshire Forward that you'd like to ask questions of? Yes, Paul.
Yeah. In this chart here,
Yes.
I understand the methodology, and I also heard, starting at 12, 13, 14. I'm guessing that I've mentioned this a number of times, that's not for this organization, but somewhere in this step process, there's a mentorship involved.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the characteristics of this is that the industries are not merely supplying money support, but also they are supplying mentorship, so that the on-the-job training happens with somebody who is experienced and knows the industry well. And that mentor may not be the same person all the way through, but be tied to their on-the-job training.
And that's one of the things that the German American Chamber of Commerce requires, to have mentorship. And that mentorship could be from the school, it could be from parents, but it's basically from the German and from the manufacturers themselves, because they set a standard for the children or the kids that are in the program.
And along with that standard, they also have programs for training trainers for training those mentors. And so it's a fully developed system that includes certain curricular standards, and this is one of the things that I think is really exciting for Franklin, because, everybody we've talked to about this is enthusiastic about it. It's a win-win-win. It's a win for the students. It's a win for our educational system because it brings the enrollment of the community colleges up. And it's also a tremendous win for manufacturers, but it's a win for the community as well in terms of economic development. A student that goes out gets a good career path job in a Franklin manufacturer is going to buy a house in Franklin. They're going to finance their mortgage through a Franklin bank, most likely. They're going to buy their groceries in Franklin. They're going to send their kids to Franklin High School, and it will have a multiplying effect on the local economy. And so we're very excited about this, and lots of other regions around the state that have heard about this are also excited about it and want in on it. We want to develop Franklin first, get this actually running up here, and make it kind of the showcase for this whole thing, and hopefully then have it turn into a statewide program.
When we pitched this to the, especially to the bank, Ron Magoon and the rest of the board, when he pitched it to him, right off the bat, he said, "This is a great way to break generational poverty."
We've talked to manufacturers, and two of the CEOs that we talked to, we only got partway through the presentation, and they said, "We're in. What do you want us to sign?"
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a really great opportunity, and so I'm excited that we have this chance to make it work here. Yeah. Maybe you can speak to that.
Go to Carrie.
Yeah.
Carrie's got some info for everybody.
I want to talk about real quickly, which I'll answer your question. They can do that through guidance. But I want to explain the success that Joe had working with Jen Spurkey this past school year. So they offered 2 classes, and we had a total of 15 students take those classes. And then the 2 classes that were taught last year are being taught again this year, and they're both full. Their cap is 16. And that's just with the second, I'm very excited about it. I was just looking this up, and I'm like, I want to share the data. And then with the 2 new classes that are going to be taught this year, one with Ms. Horn and then one with our new computer science teacher, the kids love it. They enjoy being in his space and using the practical math, and it's nice to find out that those classes are full. So like in the future, we'll be able to have more sections. But they can sign up through guidance. We actually have a survey that's going to be sent home tomorrow, so if kids are interested in some of the new classes we're offering, they can email us and we can get them plugged into that for their schedule.
And I think Dan gave us a chance to come and talk to the teachers next week, and also to a assembly too. There was assembly.
An assembly coming up, and then hopefully a manufacturing, as long as we can hold off the virus.
Christy, does that answer your question?
It does. I'm really excited about this. I have a 14-year-old daughter at home who is saying, I don't want to go to college. I don't know what I want to do. I need some other path. And my oldest is 20, and she's in college and finishing college now. But they're totally different spectrums, and they're both in Franklin School District. And this would be such an awesome opportunity.
And that's why we're so happy to get a chance to come and talk to you and talk to the parents and talk to the kids also. And also for you guys, the school board itself, and for the guidance counselors. All of this has to be talked about in school.
Cecile?
The subjects that you are going to be teaching this year?
Sure. Would you help?
Sure. So we're doing, so last year, which we're doing again this year, we did machine tool math, and then blueprint reading. This next upcoming year, we're doing a class that's called manufacturing processes, which kind of gives us a student that doesn't know a lot about manufacturing, the different methods, approaches. If you ever seen that TV show, I just said this to Carrie, if you ever seen that TV show, How It's Made, it's kind of that approach to it. And then we're doing a SolidWorks or solid modeling class in the spring.
Which is computer-based,
Yeah.
manufacturing.
Thanks, Joe. Any other questions for the manufacturing individuals?
Sorry, keep going. So my daughter, the one that isn't interested in college, she's interested in interior design, in designing houses and things like that. Would this apply to her? She's a female, and females tend to shy away from this subject, which you probably know. It tends to be more men or boys that go towards it. How would you get females to be more interested in this?
Yeah, our initial opportunity is to work with Franklin manufacturers, and so that's what we're doing in our first round. We want to rapidly expand this, and not only in the manufacturing area, but in other areas of the curriculum as well. There may be an opportunity for her to learn, say, solid modeling, and then pursue something else in community college. At this point, we don't have an industry lined up to support that, but that's something we want to do. The industries that we have lined up, Joe mentioned a minute ago that with 4 classes now offered at Franklin High School, that's 12 credits that they can get while they're in high school, which is supported by the state education budget. And so those are 4 classes that the sponsoring industries wouldn't have to pay for. So they're looking at a high school student who already has 12 credits out of a 60 credit advanced manufacturing major, and it makes them very attractive for that reason. And also because they're younger. Right now, most of the training that manufacturers are getting done through community colleges are retraining existing employees. They're not growing their workforce this way. They're upskilling them, but they're not getting more people. And for our kids to come through high school with a demonstrated interest and success in an area that is interesting to employers is a great advantage. And so, yeah. So we can talk later about how we segue from what's offered now into the things that your daughter is interested in.
And at many of our board meetings, we have to even tie them down because Pecco wants to get this in the culinary arts, okay? This is something that could transform into that. So, and again, because we're starting out, we have the 3 manufacturers here that are doing robotics and everything else. We just thought that it would be a great avenue to start with that.
And the reason why the manufacturers are behind it, something which I didn't know, Watts owns 150 companies in Germany.
Yeah.
So when we talked with Venu, he started laughing. He said, "You don't have to explain this to me. I've run a company in Germany. I know the program."
You worked there for 12 years.
And so once you have that, you open this to answer your question, and probably Joe is going to shoot me from that. If your daughter wants to go in interior design, blueprint reading, all these things which are called engineering is something what she will need to become an interior designer. So she would be right in there, and I think that would be good.
And Dan could relate to this being an engineer. Blueprint reading is probably one of the basics for everything. If you can read a blueprint, you can do a lot of design work.
And one more thing, because it was mentioned, was the culinary industry. So I'm also on the board of the Lakes Region Tourism Association. Hart's Turkey Farm has a seating capacity of 500 and currently a service capacity of 200 seats. So after a year of COVID closing, they can't even open up the whole restaurant because they can't find trained workers. They have relied for the last 40 years on H-1 visas to bring from Europe and South America trained culinary workers cheap into the state without ever thinking of developing their own annual workforce, which would be really easy in this state, because if you're on Lake Winnipesaukee and you have a workforce of 40 constant professional waiters, not waiters who do a job as a waiter, but professional waiters. You have them there for the summer, and you make a deal with a big place in the White Mountains and give them for the winter up there. It's very easy, but you've got to concentrate on this, and you've got to make sure that these culinary professions are being treated in this country as professions, and not $2.50 salary, and then let's hope you get some tip. That is not a fair treatment of people.
It's not like that in Europe at all. I know.
No, you get a salary. It's a profession. So.
Deb, you have a question?
Yeah, is there any interest in starting like in the 8th grade with the classes themselves to give them a little step up? Because you may have a student that is like really floundering, and by getting him interested a little bit earlier and getting the credits that he will need in high school, you know,
Right. It's certainly possible to do, shop tour or job shadow type of thing. One of the things that we, our organization really is a liaison between educational institutions, manufacturers, government like the Department of Labor, financial institutions, and so forth. And the Department of Labor has quite a lot to say about this, because you can't put children in a workplace, because of child labor laws and insurance things. So with as young as 8th grade, we're somewhat limited in what we can do, but certainly we want to make 8th graders aware that this program exists, and it's something that they should be thinking about, because now an awful lot of kids and their parents think that manufacturing, for example, is dark and dirty and dangerous, most manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, is done at a desk with a computer. It's a different world, and it's 21st century, and this is why it's so important that Franklin has an opportunity to educate its kids in this realm. Another possible positive outcome of this that we didn't talk about is because the German-American type of apprenticeship system is world known. A certified apprentice that has an international certification makes Franklin a very interesting place for a European manufacturer that's looking for a North American base, because they have a way of training their staff. And so this is not something that has not escaped our attention, that this could be an incredible economic thing for Franklin. But,
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for all of you for coming in tonight, and we appreciate it. All right, this brings us to agenda item 7. Agenda item 7 is our Franklin High School student representative report. Been waiting patiently.
All right.
Hey, ladies, just introduce so that everybody knows who you are now.
Yes.
And the new representatives from the school.
Yes. So I'm Megan Donahue. Oh, closer. I'm Megan Donahue, and I'm Hannah Croto. We're both seniors and co-presidents of Student Council. So this year, the Student Council is planning an orientation for the incoming freshman class, and that's going to be on September 2nd from 4 to 5. And we're going to do student-led tours of the school and answer any questions. And our goal for this event is to help the incoming class with their transition and make them feel more comfortable in their new school year. And as for the rest of the year, our plan is to bring back more normalcy in our traditional events. For example, since an indoor dance is not really possible, we're in the process of planning a bonfire dance as our big homecoming event. So that's all we have, so thank you, and if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer.
Any questions?
You still do hazing?
No.
Oh, good.
I sit on the board of directors for the New Hampshire School Board Association. We got a delegate assembly coming up in October. We just came out with some of the items for it, and one of the items Usually it's resolutions, but this one was put into a different form and it was recently approved by the Board of Directors, and it's now going before the delegate to get approval. So I'm happy to let everybody know that we are going to be, the New Hampshire School Board Association is going to be offering 5 scholarships to student representatives throughout the state of New Hampshire. That information will be coming to Superintendent Legallo. So once that comes out, you guys are looking for scholarship opportunities. That'll be part of the guidance. So the New Hampshire School Board Association is going to be coming out with a student representative scholarship. So I just, as our student representative, I want you to know that you'll have the opportunity to apply for it.
Great.
All right, so great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes.
You thought of starting like a mentoring program for the seniors, for the freshmen?
Okay. No, we have not thought about that. That's a good idea.
Okay, that's it. I planted the seed, it's up to you now.
Thank you.
Tim, do they get any bonus points by attending New Hampshire School Board Association meetings?
No, we don't.
Oh, jeez, I'm sorry. Can't you give them an inside in?
No, unfortunately, I can't. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to move on to agenda item number 8, which is our old business. We'll start out with our finance report from Jefferson.
Good evening, everybody. So, for those of you that were able to attend the City Council meeting on July 12th, as you're aware, the City Council did not pass the budget. So, based on charter, since no action was taken, the city manager's budget, which included our budget, became the budget of Franklin on July 27th. So just sort of defaults. So because of that, I have prepared a report that is required by the Department of Revenue Administration. It's called the MS-22, which is the report of administration appropriations as voted. I will need all the board members present, the superintendent and school district clerk, which would be Colleen, to sign this. So if I pass this around, I'm just going to want you to sign that tonight so that I can submit it to the DRA. There will be some discussion next month because the state budget has been passed. They put some language in the state budget about how adequacy formula was going to be calculated. They are using FY20 ADM numbers, so we don't have final information on what our adequacy number actually will be, but we should know that by September 1st, and then I'll give you the actual information at the next board meeting that we have in September, and then we can discuss our actions at that point. That will affect the budget, but it probably will be more than we had in our proposed budget at this time. And then I'll be involved with any discussion that we'll have with the City Council going forward at that point. I am working on final cleanup with the past school year. I had projected a fund balance of $1 million to be used for the FY22 budget. At the last Finance Committee meeting that we had, I had about $250,000 extra. During cleanup, it's now down to about $200,000 extra. I still have a few more cleanup items to do, but I assume that'll probably be around $200,000. There are a couple of things that I want to discuss with you tonight that will affect that number. First one is, well, actually just really one of them really. We had encumbered money at the June meeting for the middle school entryway project. We had earmarked $100,000 for that project. We had gotten 2 bids on that. The winning bid came in at about $90,100 and some odd dollars. During review of the design, the construction company, $90,189. During review of the design, construction company determined that the railing, the engineering and architectural firm had done an apples-to-apples replacement of that entryway. But during review of that, the construction company determined that the railing that was there would no longer be in code, construction code. So they actually reached out to the architectural engineering company about that, and they had conversations back and forth about it. So a redesign of the railing had to be done. This would add an additional cost to the construction project of $17,992, which would bring the total construction at this point, the construction cost to $108,181. So I'm asking if the board can approve another $8,181 to this encumbrance, which we do have plenty of fund balance to cover that cost, since I'm well over my original estimate for FY 2021, excuse me.
What was the amount that you need?
$8,181 to add to the original $100,000 that I had originally earmarked for it.
I move to add $8,181 to the construction budget that we approved July 1st, driveway construction.
Second, from fund balance.
Okay, so a motion's been made by Paul to appropriate $8,181,000 additional from fund balance. This is for the middle school entry. Seconded by Deb. Do you have any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, and the amount of $8,181 is approved.
I just wanted to put out there also, I don't know of any potential further issues during the construction of this, but I don't know if anybody felt there might be worthwhile to earmark a potential number of additional funds towards this project, just in case any more issues could arise.
I move that we offer additional funds to the previous motion in the amount of $10,000.
So a motion's been made to appropriate an additional $10,000 on the middle school entryway for any additional costs that may be incurred. Do I have a second? Second by Glenn. Do we have any discussion?
Do you think that's going to be enough? I mean, with construction costs being so fluid right now, I mean, and the time period to get materials.
Well, the nice advantage of it right now is we're actually able to move forward with the project at this point, so they have pretty constant costs at this juncture, because they anticipate starting this project within the next, by the end of September, they'll actually start demo on the project by the end of September, so costs are actually remaining pretty stable at this point. I don't know, I just read an article today that lumber's starting to drop pretty quickly right now. So I anticipate our construction costs are going to at least hold steady, or even start to decrease too. So
Do you feel comfortable with 10,000?
I certainly feel comfortable with that.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I just have a question. How did the architecture and engineering people didn't design?
I'll let you ask that question, but we're right in the middle of a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were all done with the vote.
So
Okay.
any abstentions? No abstentions. So that motion passes. An additional $10,000 will be added to the middle school entryway project. Now, Cecilia, you can ask your question.
I'm just wondering how they missed this railing issue.
Honestly, I'm not sure, other than they just felt like complete identical replacement was all that was needed at that point. Broadview has a lot more construction experience with that, so when they examined the code a little bit more in depth, I think that's when they realized that the code had changed.
So initially it was just going to be a replacement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a complete replacement, but part of the process was the entryway is going to be built with a galvanized steel on the understructure, which has corroded over time from the original structure, which wasn't galvanized steel, and that's what happened. Now the new structure will have galvanized steel and have a much longer lifetime. Plus the concrete that'll be used won't allow like salt and things to permeate through the concrete and attack the galvanized steel. Of course, galvanized steel in and of itself will be resistant to it anyway, so. But, yeah. Okay, great. The next thing I wanted to bring that I needed the board to approve, one of the things that has come up during our fun pandemic process here is our wireless systems throughout the district. Through investigations, we found that our wireless setup is fairly antiquated, and a lot of the equipment needs to be replaced and upgraded. We have two funding sources. The total project is a little over $269,000. The lovely part of all this is that we get a big chunk of money from E-rate funds, which is from the Universal Serviceability Administrative Company, which is directed by the FCC to disperse monies to school districts throughout the state based on fee-reduced populations and so forth. E-rate funds and the amount you get are based off of your fee-reduced percentages and so forth. E-rate will cover $159,000 of that project. Excuse me, actually about $153,000 of that project. The other lovely thing about it though is we can use the balance of that to be paid by ESSER funds. So we're talking about $126,000 to be paid from ESSER funds. What's that? 116. Excuse me, 116. But I would need the board to approve that. The nice thing, it's all federal funds. We have a company that handles our E-rate funds, and they handle all of the bidding process for that to make sure that we comply with the federal fund procurement rules for that project. But I do need approval of the board to move forward with us to do that project and to upgrade our wireless systems in the district.
I make the motion to move forward with the wireless upgrade.
Second.
A motion been made to move forward with a wireless system upgrade project throughout the school district. That was seconded by Cecile. For minutes purposes, it was reported out by Jefferson that the cost is $269,000 for this upgraded project. E-rate funds will cover $153,000, and we will use ESSER funds the remaining $116,000. Do we have any additional questions? Go ahead, Christine.
How much total ESSER funds do we have throughout the whole year?
Well, so we have 3 pools of money for ESSER funds, ESSER 1, 2, and 3. First round of ESSER funds was $539,000. Second round was $2.66 million. And the third round was $5.98 million. So we have quite a lot of ESSER funds. The window of opportunity for all these varies. The first round runs until September of 2022. Second round runs till September of 2023, and the third round runs till September of 2024.
Now, will this update be only good for this coming year? Or are we gonna have to re-update it next year?
No, this is a permanent upgrade.
Permanent
So the
upgrade.
current wireless system has been in place for probably, parts and pieces being fixed, probably been in place for more than a decade.
Okay.
So you're talking about a
So this is
system
an
that-
overhaul, basically?
Yeah, it's an
Okay.
overhaul. Yeah, it's just
All
to
right.
allow us to have better access points throughout, locations throughout the schools, higher bandwidth capabilities. We run our internet access through fiber by our internet company, First Light. And we're able to actually increase our bandwidth from First Light without actually increasing our internet cost, fortunately. But our equipment that we need to improve the bandwidth to, like kids using Chromebooks or any other devices, obviously this kind of stuff is kind of important because we have to change some of the cabling throughout the schools and the wireless ports that are located throughout the schools that kids can access this so we don't overload the system as much. And obviously the pandemic has been great for ferreting out our weaknesses. So this will help improve that greatly. And since we've been integrating our online access, and as Jewel could attest to, the additional curriculum that we are integrating that use online access with all of our educational opportunities, this is definitely going to help with that type of stuff.
Thank you.
Deb?
With the upgrades, being in old buildings in different sections of, all the schools, is there going to be additional wiring costs that's not potentially planned as, extra?
No, this number that we got for the cost of the project included, figured that out. It was actually based on a study of the buildings that we have in place.
And when was that study done?
I don't have that exact information. I have that from the machine building.
A recent walk through the, then the last one, walking around. Any other questions? Go ahead, Glenn.
Is this going to just update us now, or how many years forward is this going to give us opportunity?
Definitely keep us several years down the road, because that'll probably put us with the latest equipment that's out in the market at this point.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing that, a motion's been made, it's been seconded. We've had discussion, so all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, and the fund is, the project is approved.
Thank you very much, and I think that's all the excitement I have for the night.
Does anybody have any questions for Jefferson pertaining to finance reports that he has provided to the school board? Okay, seeing none? Whoops, sorry, guys.
That's all right. The one for the fund balances and the general fund balance here in project, the bottom of the column, it says additional amount to request. Who are you requesting that from?
Well, once we have that final rule, being typically we have additional money above and beyond what we budgeted for in our original budget revenues. Because that $1 million I put as part of my revenue estimate. If we have more money on top of that, then we go to the city council if we want to appropriate additional funds towards our budget.
Any other questions for Jefferson? All right, excellent. Thank you, Jefferson. All right, we're going to move on to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports this evening? No, okay, we'll start with Gavin. Finance one.
Yep, we had a finance meeting on August 2nd. We reviewed the bank reconciliations, financial reports. We were updated on the budget with the city, as you were tonight. We were also updated updated on the portrait of graduate, the grant, the middle school entry project, and the superintendent's office and the facilities director will be working on a 5-year CIP for the city council to be presented in October. But we hope to have a draft at our September 15th meeting at the SOG.
Thank you, Deb. Any questions for Deb? All right, we'll move on to Lorraine and it is I2.
We had an Innovation and Improvement Committee meeting on August 3rd. We discussed the reopening plan draft, and Dan will be presenting a final version of that this evening. We also had our second open discussion on data analysis projects. We'll be having one more fairly open discussion on data analysis projects on Wednesday, September 22nd at 5:30 at the SAU. And the data projects will be the main focus of innovation improvement over the course of this school year. We'll be continuing to seek any inputs on this. I'm anticipating a fairly robust process here where it's our goal to bring as much data analysis into the improvement process for the entire school district. So again, anyone at any time is welcome to send me an email, give me a phone call, attend the I2 meetings, and give us your thoughts on areas where we can use data to improve our processes across the board. And if there's really no restrictions on areas that we might want to touch upon here, one of the things we'll be going through is our strategic plan. We had items in the strategic plan that we're calling for data analysis to be involved in. So we'll be going through all that. And again, anything else anybody has thoughts on, please don't hesitate to contact and give us your thoughts.
Boy, that's a big subject. Now, let's get it down to a little smaller.
We've often brought data analysis points to our board meetings, and I'd love to have your input and on areas that you'd like to see us bring a more robust thought process into what we're doing here.
Well, sure, I try and gather 3 or 4 times a week, but I am not fathoming the type of data that you wish to process without some definition.
Setting goals is part of our process, so I'll try to break it down into kind of 3 areas. One area is understanding the data that we have currently and the data that's available to us both through the state and nationally, as well as what we currently harvest internally. Another area is what questions do we want to answer? We hear questions in our board meetings, quite frequently. That could be focal points for the future, places we want to get to. Goal setting is a major part of this. So we have our data, our questions, and our goals, and we try to bring those together to achieve our goals for the future. So one common thing we hear about quite frequently is test scores. So we know, and there's quite robust tracking of test scores already. We want to bring in other metrics that we can use to measure student success and put those side by side with test score tracking to not just measure where we currently sit in relation to the state, which is a typical benchmark, but measure the progress that our students are making over time. And so that's just one example. So we've had a couple of good discussions. We're going to have one more, like I said, kind of an open discussion, and then we'll start having targeted focus discussions in those different areas, in the area of data in the area of setting goals, and in the area of just of other questions that we might want to answer. And you've brought metrics into our discussions here at the board in the past. So I'm definitely particularly interested to hear your inputs on metrics that you think would be useful for our district to pay closer attention to over time. So our goal isn't just to produce a data set and answer a question right now, but to develop tracking systems so we can measure these data points over time and see if we're improving over time. The whole goal is to improve our school system.
I understand what you're saying. I have deep reservations about being a school board member and offering my professional services as a consultant. I can't do that. Cut right off. I can't do that.
Perhaps we could have a discussion outside here, and because I don't have an understanding of what your profession is well enough to understand where your boundaries might be. But if there is advice that you could offer without crossing the boundaries of where you're sitting, I'd welcome it. But I think maybe this is probably, we need just a side discussion to try to, for me to understand.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm glad you understand where I'm coming from. I'm a school board member. I can offer advice based on my experience, but I cannot offer my professional services as a consultant, demographic studies, income studies, enrollment studies. I share quite a bit, and I started sharing my enrollment data and projections back in 2018. We all know where we're headed. Franklin High School is in a more precipitous position than other high schools throughout the state. But then the manufacturing presentation this evening, it can be an offsetting factor. But I'll repeat it one more time. I am a school board member. No different than if an attorney was a school board member, they would offer their professional services as an attorney. I think I need to be off that committee. We'll discuss it later, but please take it.
I just want to ask one more question, I guess. I understand your development of data sets. I would ask from the school board standpoint if you could offer not data and analysis and conclusions, but targets, things that we should look at. Is that more in the realm of what you might be able to offer?
First, please remove me from the committee. Second, we can sit down and chat and take up Chairman Dow's suggestion that we sit down and chat. I'm getting enough of an opinion, an overview, so that I will need to, we can have a friendly chat and let it go at that. But I'm not in the position to offer services that I charge other taxpayers in Vermont for.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Are there any other committee reports? Okay. We'll move on to agenda item 9, which is our new business. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Legallo.
Okay. So back at the end of June, on June 23rd, we presented our 21-22 reopening plan. At that point, we had just stopped using masks. We were excited about the summer. Summer went along. Things were fairly normal with summer school. Everybody was feeling really good. And then suddenly the Delta variant started to creep up on us. So if you remember back at our plan in June, we were talking about always least restrictive, trying to have the least restrictive measures in place. so that we didn't overly impact the educational environment while still making sure, doing our best to make sure that kids would remain safe. Over the summer, we received nationally a CDC recommendation that masks should be worn indoors in schools. CDC was recommending that nationally. DHHS originally said they weren't going to offer any recommendations to us regarding mask usage. They were going to stay away from that. However, they changed their tune on that a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and offered up a matrix, which we ended up putting in our plan, our draft plan for you tonight. That draft plan talks about substantial community spread and cases within the school district dictating then targeted or potentially universal mask usage. DHHS talks about looking at local vaccination rates, local cases, and cases within the school, 3 different factors to be considering as you determine how and when you employ masks. So the draft that we put together for you to consider tonight mirrors what DHHS is talking to us about, which basically says mask use is optional unless we hit some indicator on the matrix, which means at that point they become mandated. Whether that's a targeted mandate within one specific classroom because the issues mandate require that, or whether that we have some type of cluster within a school building which would then mandate that we need to put masks on everybody. You may or may not know the rec center had an issue on Thursday and had to close down Thursday afternoon and Friday. They had 11 student cases. They were back open today. They used targeted masking. I will be watching that situation obviously very closely. I will remind everybody that school does not start until September 7th. And for 17 months, we've been monitoring this thing from week to week. So I think tonight, the board should discuss their opinions about mask usage and have that dialogue together. That is the critical issue that everybody wants to know about tonight. But I would be asking you to make sure that we frame this in a way that gives the administration latitude to do what it needs to do to protect all the kids in the school district. Because, like I said, this thing has been changing every week, from week to week for 17 months. So my recommendation is to approve the plan that we have put forward to you, but to have some dialogue here about where you stand regarding mask usage. We have traditionally been using DHHS guidance because it's the local guidance versus traditionally just the CDC guidance, which is national, because clearly we are not New York City or Los Angeles, we are Franklin. I can answer any questions about the plan that anybody has. I will reiterate, our intention is to use the least restrictive that we can use so that education can move forward as robustly as it can. We know more about the virus now than we did 17 months ago. So some of the things that we were doing last year in terms of remote learning or hybrid learning, we are hopeful not to have to go back down that road. Which is why we're not recommending that we do any remote learning this year at this point. We are recommending that in-school learning for all is the direction we should be going in. The mask optional approach to start until we have cases, and at that point we would then be looking at targeted mask usage, and then if we needed to, universal mask usage. I talk about in the plan starting with 3-foot distancing with mask usage, which is a less restrictive measure because kids could take them off at their desks. And then if things go downhill, we move that back to then a 6-foot distancing, which is a more restrictive approach, which would mean we'd be back to where we were last year. So my thought process on this is it continues to be a moving target, so we need to have a continuum of responses, and the administration needs to be allowed, specifically myself, the superintendent, in conjunction with conversations with my school nurse and DHHS to make these decisions as this unfolds. So that's my 2 cents on the school reopening plan at this point.
Let's start with Delaney.
I have a series of questions here. First of all, I agree with following the state guidance as we have been for the last 18 months or more. And I appreciate the inclusion of the masking matrix in here. Could you describe for us what level of community transmission we sit in right now, minimal, moderate, or substantial?
The whole state of New Hampshire is in substantial.
So that puts us in the universal masking in the school unless we can do outside of social distancing?
That puts us in the top right-hand column. So if you look at the left-hand, if you look at the vertical column, it talks about sporadic cases in school or, I don't remember the exact amount in front of me, but because school's not open, we don't have cases in the school.
No, but we're in the universal masking quadrant right now. Anyway, in the reopening plan on page 3, I believe, right near the top, you describe Merrimack County as being a substantial level of transmission, and then it says so indoor mask use would be optional. Is that correct?
That's correct, and the reason that's correct by my interpretation of the matrix is because we do not have cases in the school, because school is not open. Once school opens and we have cases, then we would mask up first, targeted within classrooms if we needed to, depending on what school has cases, and then universally, if necessary, should we have more cases than just a handful.
So you're suggesting there should be really another row in this matrix that says there are no cases or evidence of facility transmission, so that you could have that optional level there?
Yeah, I guess it's an interpretation of the matrix.
Yeah,
I interpret it.
I understand what you're saying, because if there's cases in the school, then we're in universal, but.
Yeah, I sat on an hour-long DHHS teleconference on this, and they talked to us about don't just use substantial transmission in your community, substantial transmission in your county as the measure.
Mm-hmm.
They talked to us about what's happening in your specific community and what's happening in your specific schools. And they talked about using vaccination rates, which in Franklin are low right now, so we need to do some work on vaccination in Franklin, because Franklin's in one of the lowest in this region. We're only like 41%, I think. They talked about using cases in your school and whether there is evidence of in-school spread versus outside in the community spread. A lot about what we did last year, because almost all of our cases last year were outside of school spread. There was very little evidence of in-school spread last year with what we did. And then they talk about, I don't remember what the third one was, vaccination rates, in-school spreads, and community transmission is the third one. So there's 3 factors to be considering when you make the decisions around whether you're going to employ universal mask usage. You all know this has become a political issue. You know, and there's some people on one side that don't want masks no matter what, and there's people on the other side that want masks no matter what. I tend to lean to the side of we need to do what's the best thing for our kids to keep our kids safe. But we also need to be least restrictive, because when we put restrictive measures in place for our kids, it impacts the educational environment for our kids. And we have seen a huge impact on our educational environment from the things we were made to do last year. So DHHS has backed off some of these things because they have recognized over time that those impacts were significant to our children. You know, we know that at the upper middle school and at the high school, students have had the opportunity to be vaccinated. So families have made decisions from 12 years old and up about whether or not they want their children to be vaccinated. So that's a significant factor to consider. That's a family choice to make. Kids below the age of 12 have not had that ability. Those kids, there is no vaccine that's approved at this point. So that's a different situation as well. So my job as the superintendent would be to intervene quickly when we're talking about situations between preschool and age 12, because we know there's no vaccination of those kids, versus how we intervene from ages 12 to the end of high school, because we know we have vaccination situations there as well. The other thing that we need to remember is we're getting new information every day about what we know about either the Delta variant or the new Lambda variant, and we also know that every week or two this thing continues to swirl. So it's not a static decision that I think we should be making tonight. We should be making a decision that allows us to do what we need to do, because I only meet with you once a month.
we want to process, like we've had.
We've had,
the whole last year.
and that's
and
what
a
I
half.
would be calling
Exactly.
for. I
Right.
think that that's the most reasonable approach for you to take.
So do you have a spreadsheet or something that you, some kind of data map that you use that you're tracking these factors that you're, want to bring into your decision process?
I go on the COVID website every day, Delaney.
Mhm.
I can tell you how many cases that they report in Franklin. Right now, there's 13 active cases, although that was as of 8/21, so they're a little bit behind. I know the vaccination rate in Franklin right now is 41% of eligible vaccination people.
Yep.
And I know the substantial transmission is there as well.
And our reopening plan will be posted on the website and all this.
That reopening plan went home to parents and out to the community on Wednesday.
And once it's approved,
So we could get feedback. I did hear back from just a couple of parents.
Mhm.
Some saying, let parents decide about masking, it's a parent's decision. Others saying, with the Delta variant, we should have everybody masked up. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was 50-50 then.
So the long and the short of my line of questioning, we want to have a process following data. I think it could be useful to have all that in a centralized location on our website for be easier to understand for parents. Here's our
Right.
process, here's the data as it's going.
So we can think about doing that, but what I need to do tonight, because this plan is due to the DOE today, what I need to do tonight is to have you confirm that this is gonna be the plan so that I can send it out to the DOE. And then I will send this plan out to the families in the community tomorrow with a letter from me saying this plan was approved and we will be keeping you up to date and put something together like you suggest. But what I want you to know though, is we consult with DHHS on every case that happens. And then we work with our school nurse and DHHS, we work in tandem to figure out what is the best course of action. DHHS has been saying they're gonna be very hands-off because they don't wanna get involved in this political mass issue. So there's gonna be no confirmed, I know you're a numbers guy, Delaney, but there's no delineated, nobody's gonna tell us if there's 3 kids, you do this, if there's 7 kids, you do this. This is all gonna fall to us. And when I say us, I say me. It's gonna fall on me and the information I have access to and the experts I have access to. And what I need the board to do is to understand that that's the approach we're gonna take and we're gonna make the best decisions possible based on all the information that we just talked about.
Hey, DOE, hold on a second, please. DOE has also said their hands off. They're not gonna give any guidance. And the governor has already said that the responsibility is gonna leave it to all the local school boards to make the decision with their reopening plan. And watching the reopening plans, that's all that's been done is, the local school boards, and you see it on every day in the newspaper, okay? And boards are making the decision of, here's the reopening plan, and then leaving it based on what the numbers come in later on. Once school opens, at least we have an idea, like, as is on here, so if all of a sudden there's a cluster, we know, Dan knows that, okay, there's a cluster, I have to go to 3 feet. Oh, no, the cluster's continuing, now I need to move it to 6 feet. This will fluctuate, this plan's, I don't think any plan with this COVID is gonna be set in stone, but at least gives us a guidance that we can use, and a matrix we can use that gives the superintendent the availability to say, okay, this is what I need to do on each occurrence.
And I agree, this is the way we've been running this all along.
Well, actually, that's not the way we've been running all. We had a mask mandate in place all last year.
And that was based on the best guidance we had.
That was based on all the guidance
at that
we
point in
received from
time.
the medical experts that are
So
out
we've
there.
been following guidance and doing our best to stay with, and so I definitely appreciate this.
I'm gonna keep moving on.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, Chris, yeah, I
Thank
just wanna
you.
make sure everybody's school board member before we make any decisions here.
All right, so I think it's unfortunate that it's become a political issue because this is clearly worldwide. So it's definitely, if you look at it, in essence, it's not political. And it makes me very sad to think that we're going on either side based on our political affiliation. Definitely not a partisan issue. Second of all, in order for us to look out for each other, we need to look out for our kids because they are going to be amongst each other. I think it would be prudent to have the kids wear masks in the hallways. The teachers, the kids are they're gonna have their temperature taken as they go into school anyway, so we'll know if they're sick or not. And if there's some coughing and sneezing and issues going around, which there will be because, it's that time of the year coming up. I think it would be a good idea for the teachers to decide during their class time if the kids should be wearing the masks at all. I know that there's a lot of parents out there that should be that are saying that it should be the parents' decision. It is the parents' decision when the children are at home. But when you're in school and you're being mixed with other kids, and they have parents that have thoughts too, and the kids, unfortunately, their worries go from their parents' worries, and then they also get worries from the teachers and everybody else. They're all, unfortunately, the kids are really just stuck in the middle of this big mess that we have. And their minds are just swirling, kind of like Dan was saying with the whole thing. It's just swirling. And unfortunately, our kids, that's how they're being affected. Their minds are swirling. They don't know what is up or what is down. And it's really unhealthy for them mentally. But one thing we can do is say, we want to look out for everybody. We're not just looking out for Joe Schmo, we're not just looking out for Kira Kelly. We're looking out for both of them. And in order to do that, the best thing we can do is wear a mask in the hall. If you're sick, stay home. And don't send your child to school sick because you have to go to work. We all have those issues. We all have kids. We all have jobs. We all have to worry about that stuff. If your child is genuinely sick, if they have a sneeze, a cough that you're concerned about, bring them to the doctor. Do not send them to school. I mean, it's the same thing we've been doing all along, and I think that that's the best route. And we need, masks are important. It's proven that they do stop the spread. But inside the classroom, if the children are able to take the masks off, that helps them to learn better too. They don't want to have to worry about pulling it off their face, putting it on top of their head, putting it in their armpit or whatever. They want to be able to learn, and we don't want them to have to worry about that. So I think as a rule of thumb, I don't know if the middle school is switching their teachers classroom to classroom like they did last year. You're going to be switching classrooms. So I mean, in between classes, you wear your mask. When you get into the class, it's up to the teacher. If the teacher wants you to wear a mask, you wear a mask. And when you get home, you don't have to wear your mask. It's just, unfortunately, it's a way of life right now. And hopefully it's not drawn out and long like it has been. Hopefully it's more temporary as we get closer to a more permanent vaccine. And that's just my thoughts on it.
Thank you. Glenn?
Did I hear you correctly, Dan, that you removed the, sure. Did I understand correctly that you removed the remote learning option from the table?
So I'm recommending plan.
Yeah. I agree with the plan that you've established. I would just recommend don't remove it. Use it as a last resort. You may end up needing it. And if you remove it, then we've got to have an emergency meeting to reestablish it.
When I say remove it, what I mean is as an option that we're doing simultaneous, meaning that some kids can have remote while we're in session. If I have to close a school because of an outbreak, then everybody would be remote.
Oh, okay.
So we would do that. We can certainly do, if that helps, Glenn.
Yeah, no, that clarifies that.
But what we're saying is we want our kids here, we need our kids here, we need them in front of our teachers, and unless the school's closed, then our only option is remote. We're gonna be open for our kids and we want our kids here.
In the conversation, I thought it was specific that you'd removed that option.
We're gonna still hopefully have snow days, and still have kids do some snow day work, so. Thank you, Glenn.
I think he's going around.
Yeah, I'm going around, Paul, so I'll come right to you when I get to you. Well, we're not ready for it now.
Oh, gee. I think the plan is solid. You definitely have it's spelled out, and I think that is what's most important. It's proactive in the sense that, okay, if something happens, you know what to do. And it's all spelled out, and I'm definitely for the safety of the children. What is best for the kids, both educationally wise as well as health wise. And if the kid is sick, as you mentioned, keep the child home. And now I heard, and I'm not sure, temperatures will be taken, correct? Okay, so if a child has a temperature, they're out of the picture. And I approve the plan. I think it's good.
I agree that this plan is well thought out. I just have a question, whereas you mentioned our low vaccination. Can the schools actually ask the families if they're vaccinated? Because we got that Department of Education thing from, I forget who, and regarding the vaccinations, and how can we determine whether or not kids are vaccinated or not vaccinated?
Well, at this point, we can't. We haven't. We can't discriminate against kids that are. So I guess the question would be, why would we need to know? If we're not, because we can't treat them differently. We can't ask them to do anything differently. We don't want to have situations that arose in other districts earlier this year where some things happened. So I'm not sure why would we need to know. I think maybe what we can do is encourage families, provide information to families, encourage families to get kids vaccinated, but that's still a personal choice for a family to make, in my opinion.
A comment about how if someone, if there is a case in one classroom and something about the effect of maybe the majority of the kids are already vaccinated because they're over 12 years old, but we don't really know that. So would that take your decision into account, that we really don't know how many kids are vaccinated in that particular class?
When I said that, I meant the opportunity to be vaccinated, meaning protecting themselves. So families have had that opportunity. The sense of the situation is that the 11, 12-year-olds and under, those kids have not had, parents have not had the opportunity. So I've heard from several parents who are concerned because they haven't had the opportunity because the kids aren't old enough. And to me, that's a real conundrum because they haven't had the choice. Parents of the older kids have had the choice, that they've chosen either to do it or not, and that's their personal choice. So I would tell you that we will be act quickly, swiftly, Sue and I, certainly, and certainly Ken in his younger grades, because we know that none of the kids at those levels, grade 6 and below, for the most part, are vaccinated. So that, the issue at the rec center happened with kids that are all unvaccinated. They were all younger kids. That's what happened. So, I put a different lens on it depending on what ages of where the school issue is. And that's what I was trying to convey.
DHS and the science, and I think you're doing a great job, and I think you did a good job with this.
Are you all set with everything, Jim? Before I go to Paul? I know Paul's itching to make this motion, but I want to make sure
I'll talk about it after.
And I have nothing. I'm good with, I read the plan thoroughly. I understand the plan. I know where the plan entails and details what's going to be happening with the mask. Obviously, the safety of our students is always our number one priority. I have the same concerns that the else does, as in Sue and Ken's grades of younger kids that are 12 and under. I do watch the dashboard on DHHS on a regular basis. And I look at the fact that we have 8,800 citizens in the city of Franklin. We have 13 cases. That's a pretty low rate. Okay? So we have 8,800 citizens in the city. Okay? And if you look at the maps, if you look at the data, young children are not the one catching the COVID. It's your older adults, okay, that are unvaccinated and catching the COVID, okay? And I know the detrimental, because I have a 7-year-old granddaughter, so I know the detrimental effect that those masks have on those young children, okay? In their ability to learn. So I support the plan. This is a plan that was done out not on a whim or overnight, okay? It was done out on a long process by the administration, who we entrust to make these plans, and we have to entrust them that these are the proper plans, and we know they are because they follow DHS rules. And I would recommend to this board that they approve this plan. So that's all I have to say about it.
Paul, go for it. Oh, yay, you're the best.
Slow. Go slow.
Go slow?
She needs to write it down, so go
Oh,
slow.
okay. I move to approve the time plan titled Draft Franklin School District Reopening Plan, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA.
We're doing the 2021-2022 reopening plan approval. That's what we're at.
I got the wrong one.
American Rescue Plan, yeah.
Oh, my God.
All right, so do you still want to make a motion, Paul, or do we want to go?
Second item, I got the second item. Yeah, thank you. I move to approve the 21-22 reopening plan.
I seconded it.
Paul makes the motion to approve the 2021-2022 reopening plan as it's been presented to us by the superintendent of schools. That is seconded by Glenn Carter. Is there any further discussion based on the motion?
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
I just want to state that I believe that, we are here for all the students of Franklin in all 3 buildings in the community. It's unfortunate that the outbreak did happen at Parks and Rec. Those are probably our students too. So I think that it is a parent's decision whether they mask or unmask, but we're not targeting individual students. We're targeting all students. And I think that, there, as Mr. Webb stated, that there are going to be students that are going to probably make comments or some type of bullying if you have a mask or if you don't have a mask. And that's going to put a lot on the staff and the teachers, the principals, assistant principals, to make sure that type of rhetoric doesn't happen. We need to protect those students while they're in our charge. Masks have been proven to help with the variant, and we don't know what the long-term effects are of the vaccines. I mean, personally, I have an immune deficiency problem, and I was very concerned about it at the beginning as well, about how is this vaccination going to affect my immune system. Long-term effects haven't been determined because they can't be. It's just happening. But it was my choice not to get it right away and speak with my only personal physician, and work through those fears that I had as an individual. So I certainly feel the families and their opinions, and we need to definitely take that into consideration. My question to Dan would be, what input have you gotten from the staff for masked or unmasked?
I haven't asked the staff because it's not a staff issue, it's a safety issue.
No, I realize that, but I mean, as
That's
far
why I haven't
as
asked the
input
community either.
into the plan, they have not had any.
Oh,
Just
they received the plan. They were asked to give feedback on the plan.
And have they
Back
done-
in June and in August.
And have they done that?
I have received nothing from any staff members in terms of negative, anything about the plan. Nothing. But they've had access to the plan, they were delivered, they were given the plan back in June, they were given the plan again last week, the updated plan. I had a conversation with one teacher on the phone about it to clarify something. That's that's what I've done. But the reason I have not asked anyone their opinion about it is because this is a health issue. I don't ask opinions about health issues, I go by the health guidance.
No, I understand that. I was just wondering what their comments or concerns were of the plan that we're being suggested to approve, that's all. Because I think it's important that if it were provided to them and that they had concerns about the components in it, that they would have reached out to. And I don't know if any of them have reached out to the individual principals with concerns.
No.
I don't know.
No, I would have sent them to you. I would have sent them to Dan.
Yeah.
And Dan always listens.
Yeah. No, that's what I had.
Any other discussion?
All the discussion has been regarding the safety of the children. I think we also have to realize and incorporate this safety is also for all the teachers and all the staff that's in schools. So I don't want the teachers to feel that, you know, the kids that we care about, but we do care about the teachers as well as staff. That's all.
And I think another thing, Lee coming in, is proof that people in the community are concerned too, because not only does this affect our students and our staff, it affects the community as well, because the kids eventually have to go home and mingle with other people.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing that, we made a motion, there's been a second on it. All in favor to accept the 2021-22 reopen plan, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, and the reopening plan is approved.
All right, thank you. We'll get that to the DOE by midnight.
Where's the copy of this piece? I have to leave for 8:30, so if there's votes that you need to be, do you have a form without me?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So then don't worry about me then.
How about if I leave too?
I'd still have a quorum.
On top.
So the next thing we'll move on is the American Rescue Plan, elementary and secondary,
So this next plan is due today as well. It kind of came at us late from the DOE, and there seems to be a little bit of confusion around it. But I gotta thank Jewel and Jefferson, the three of us banged this out together. It allows us to start to have access to our ESSER 3 funds, which is the $5.9 million, which we don't anticipate spending any of that money until the very earliest next year. So this plan will go to the DOE. They will ask us to clean it up, clarify, add, delete. So there's no rush in terms, I mean, we're not held like firm to exactly what we're saying in this plan. It just allows them to know that we have a basic idea of how we're going to spend the $5.9 million. We have a plan. We have some ideas in place. They tried to send us a template that we tried to work from in most situations. So my recommendation to you tonight, if you had a chance to review it, we tried to ballpark for you, some dollar amounts of what we thought we would be spending in certain categories that they gave us, like learning loss, how much money we'd spend there, and how much we were thinking about spending on, air handlers and windows. You're not bound, just so you know, by approving this plan, you're not bound to spending any of this money at this point this way. We will have many lengthy discussions about how this money is going to be used, and obviously you will be making those decisions. This is more to meet the federal deadline and requirement of tonight at midnight.
Cecile?
So the goals for each year are not set in stone then?
Okay.
Okay.
We've had some preliminary discussions with you. You had, EEI come in to talk to you about ventilation and windows. They're going to come back to us in the fall, and we'll start doing some more rigorous planning with them. We'll get serious at that point. You know that we've got some plans on positions and tutoring and some other things that we've talked about, but nothing, like I said, we're still spending ESSER 2 funds. which we did not have to make plans like this for ESSER two, so we're already rolling with the ESSER two funds. The ESSER three funds are still down the road, but just so we meet their federal imposed deadline, this is what we put together at this point for you to take a look at. What we were gonna do was send it home to, I'll write a letter and send it home to families and say, hey, this is, what we're looking at down the road here, and, I'll put it in the letter that, there'll be many discussions over the next several years about how this funding will be used, something like that. But I didn't want to put it out to the public till you had a chance to actually look at it, because it had dollar amounts in it. I didn't think that would be fair to the board. Any other questions? Go ahead, Delaney.
I like the plan overall. I have a grammatical issue, I guess, on page 3, right at the top. The last sentence uses the word necessary twice in the last 4 words, so I think the first one just needs to be
Julie, on that?
removed there. And aside from that, I just wanted to raise something from the recommendations from the state guidance. Talked about a couple of issues, promoting vaccinations among the school community, and also the potential for in-school rapid testing. Have you addressed those items at all? I don't know if they need to be in this or probably not.
We didn't put them in there because they weren't gonna cost us any money.
Okay.
And we're gonna talk about vaccinations, about screening. We're gonna talk about screening and an item coming up in just a few minutes. But we only put in there the things that we thought we were gonna be spending the federal funding on. Things that we were gonna be doing outside of the funding, we didn't include. We felt the federal government didn't need to know that.
Absolutely.
The DOE has more of a hand in it, so, yeah. Or the DOE, as Tim said.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You have to, so. I'll make the motion that we accept the American Rescue Plan Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief, also known as ESSER, Use of Funds Plan, as was presented by the superintendent. Second by Paul. Is there any further discussion? Any no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, the plan is approved. Thank you. I have several resignations tonight. I'd ask the board to accept the following resignations. Desiree Smith, high school guidance counselor. Haley Goodwin, high school social studies teacher. Dawn Monroe, out of district coordinator. Michelle Plum, grade 2 teacher. Regina Trider, grade 4 through 6 teacher at the middle school. And Kristen Carter, middle school Title I teacher.
I move that we accept the resignation as read by Superintendent Jim Gallo, and we accept the resignation with regret.
Motion's made, do I have a second? Second by Cecile, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The resignations are accepted with regret. Thank you. I have one retirement to bring to the board tonight. I would ask the board to accept the retirement of Deb Georgievich, high school PE and health teacher. So move to accept the retirement with regret or enjoyment. It's retirement. Do I have a second on that? Second by Glenn. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The retirement is accepted. Thank you very much. Okay, I have high school coaching nominations from Danny Sylvester, so I'll do the high school ones first. I have Kim Berthelay, who will be coaching both the JV and varsity volleyball teams. She's a returning coach. I have Melissa Lewis, who will be coaching the varsity field hockey team, and she is a new coach. Jennifer Merrill, she's the varsity spirit coach. She's returning. Tim Snow, who was our new head varsity football coach. Jamie Roy, who is our new assistant varsity football coach. John Taylor, who is our new assistant varsity football coach. And Charlie Chappell, who is our varsity soccer coach, who is returning.
I move to accept those nominations as read by Superintendent Gallo.
Second.
Second by Kim. Motion, Mayor Paul, to accept the high school nominations as presented. Seconded by Deb. Is any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The nominations for the high school coaches are accepted.
I'd like to nominate the following fall coaches at the middle school. I have Kyle Kaplan, head football coach, who's returning. I have Carrie Kaplan, assistant football coach, returning. I have Stephanie Stillings, who is our spirit coach, returning.
I have a question before we move on.
Question, or you make it?
No, I have a question now, after somebody seconds it.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the fall coach nominations by Paul. I have a second by Cecilia. Any discussion or questions on either one?
So you only have 3 nominations for the middle school? Is there a volleyball nomination?
The sheet I have says it's still open, but I'm not sure this is the most up-to-date sheet. So
Danny's here.
Danny is here. I didn't see Danny.
Danny?
Danny's
I was
here.
wondering why you only mentioned a couple.
Do I have the wrong one,
That was a
Danny?
nice catch by
Do I have the wrong sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to give the rest of them?
Sure.
Thanks.
You already did middle school football.
Yep.
And middle school cheer.
Yep.
And then volleyball is Abigail Cornell, who's new.
Do they have a field hockey coach yet?
Soccer is Jason Reed, who is new, yet he didn't coach track and field, so he's kind of a returning coach and a teacher at FMS. And middle school field hockey is the only opening I still have.
Middle school field hockey.
You just not drawn with a coach's opening ever. So I've got a couple that I think I'm going to talk into it. So they're field hockey moms, so I'm hoping I can get them.
So Paul, you all said with add those extra names to your nomination that is presented by Athletic Director Sylvester?
Yes, thank you.
Cecilia, you want to continue second? Okay, is there any further discussion?
I wanted to, after this motion, I have a motion too.
All right, so seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the fall coach nominations as presented, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The fall coach nominations with the additional ones presented by Athletic Director Sylvester is approved.
Tim?
Yep, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to have Dan just hire the field coach once it's been secured without having to go to the board, because we're at a late date and school's starting, and he can just bring it to us in his report as an information.
Thank you, Deb. That's great. Appreciate it. Okay, motion made by Deb just to go ahead and hire a field hockey coach once presented by Athletic Director Sylvester. That's seconded by Paul. Any discussion on that? Go ahead, Glenn.
Does he have any other coaching openings that need refilled, because we're doing it for one?
I think he said that was the one, yeah.
That was the last one.
Then my answer.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. All right, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. I'm happy to tell you that we have a third foreign exchange student that will be attending Franklin High School in the fall, a young lady who will be a junior from Japan. So I'm very excited to let the board know that. We just got word about that. Student handbooks, the 3 student handbooks from each school were in the board drive. I think we have cover sheets or summary sheets coming around to go over the changes, and so the board can ask any questions that they may have. Let's start with Jay and Ken, since Sue's making her way around with her changes. So Jay and Ken.
Jay, you're up.
Summarize the changes, please. Yep. So the majority of the changes this year really were based on the time changes we had at the middle school. You guys had approved earlier this year. There are some other ones I put in your packet page by page. So things like trying to update it so the truancy procedures actually fit the truancy practices that we do at the school. I think they've just been outdated by a little bit. So I altered a couple of those pieces to make them actually line up with what we do for the school. On page 5, I had some breakfast changes, mainly times, because we had certain times that just didn't line up. Also, eliminating the use of electronics at breakfast, since breakfast is going to be not really in the cafeteria like it used to be. I don't want to have to deal with it saying electronics used at breakfast if it's now in the classrooms, because then that's going to be a fight later on. Obviously, they don't need to clean up their tables after breakfast if they're not having breakfast in the cafeteria. Same thing with detentions and detentions, there's all timeline stuff. Emergency forms, I updated that. The emergency forms are found on our webpage and showed where they're going to be able to get those. Took out the times for the library because we need to make sure that the library times in the middle school align with our times. The Allied Arts piece, the fact that we have, we're looking at what we're going to have for an Allied Arts, whether it's health and fitness, which we added in. Didn't want to take Tech-Ed out. Hopefully someday we'll get Tech-Ed back, so we ended up taking off the grade part of that. Changed the term for the parent portal to Alma, so it's more consistent with our district. And we just aligned what we're using for the ISS policies already, so it actually worked in our books. There's just a lot of making sure things lined up district-wide is what I wanted to make sure, so that we were aligned with the high school specifically, because we're transitioning a lot of those kids on to the upper grade things. And I want to say, I updated one of our graphics. I thought we'd like our logo in there. And then I think I didn't print my updated one. There was one more piece about that we aligned with the high school, just about making sure that we had our procedures for due process and search and seizure to line up. That's where I'm at. Is there any questions? Let me know.
Okay, Sue, Nicole, you want to
Okay.
Sure. So Nicole has done an excellent job of summarizing our few corrections for this year. Most of the corrections had to do with change of time because we're the early birds. So a correction on that should say page 3. So we put in addition about the SAU mobile app for parents so that they could download that. Also just, again, the change of time, 7:15 to 2, with school starting at 7:40. We do have a time there for pickup patrol of the parents calling in by 1 o'clock unless it's an emergency. On page 8, an update to our house model and instructional practices goals, which you can read. Unfortunately, on page 12, all the links were broken to the policies that I cited by the board, so we corrected those. And then an update to our faculty and staff list. And that was it for the changes in the Paul Smith Parent-Student Handbook.
It brought to mind that you're not having those cohorts anymore, right? Is that, if I understand that, is that like 3 grades together or how they?
So we are doing the house model this year, yes, we
You
are.
are?
Yes, we are. Yep.
Then what is not being done? I guess I'm a little confused. I thought in something that I read that the cohorts were not going to be, maybe middle school?
Cohorts are not happening, it's just where we have kids in one room all day long. We're not doing that this year. We're gonna do the house model, which allows us to move them around. Does that help, Cecile? No, that's okay, that's fine. And then Carrie and Tim?
Yeah, sure. So there were a number of changes, like Jay mentioned to you, that I typed up, and you guys should have a copy of the summary of these changes. So the first one, there were 9 pages just making references to the old schedule start and end times that all had to be revised. There were also, as Jay mentioned, changes made in updating the student handbook to reflect the practices already in place, and I listed those, like the grad progress on page 13, the early graduation process, what that looks like. references to Alma had to be updated. They were still referencing the old electronic grade book, no longer in use for the last 3 years, as well as updating the truancy process, which we have had in place at least the last year, so I wanted to make sure that that was all reflected in the student handbook. There were some other changes that I made. Again, didn't come up with any of these changes on my own. They were all referenced or ripped off of other local school districts here in the state of New Hampshire. Concord, Bow, Goffstown, Laconia. So the core values, just getting in line and getting ready for the NEAS and C recertification process. They're going to be looking for these We Believe statements included under the climate and culture. So also just aligning with our climate and culture here in the school as well. Any references to a study, I changed that to reflect the new verbiage, which would be the learning lab. So you'll see that that was referenced on 6 pages, 7 pages. I actually included a code of conduct, not simply what was stated, which was providing behavioral consequence descriptions. There was no code of conduct in the student handbook, so I took the liberty of locating some code of conducts that I found actually matched the climate and culture here and what we were looking to accomplish. So that is a new addition. I updated the procedure for investigating bullying in the student handbook. Previously it said that the principal would be handling that. I actually am the one who handles all student discipline referrals and investigations. So I took the liberty to say that it would be the administration, either the principal or the assistant principal, to make sure that that was accurate. I also included a new cell phone policy. Prior to this, there was a contradiction in both the student handbook and the teacher handbook. One said that cell phones were not allowed, and the other one said cell phones were okay. So I decided, I took the liberty to make sure that they matched up and they said the same thing. The new cell phone policy says that cell phones are a major distraction. If we're going to place an emphasis on improving student outcomes, it has to start with removing the biggest distraction to student learning in the first place, which is the smartphone. We're simply going to ask teachers to never, number one, put their hand on the smartphone, but ask students to either put it on a table in the front of the room or in a shoe rack hanging from their doors. So again, I think I have to reiterate that every single thing that we do in this building has to be because it's what's in the best interest of students. If we're going to focus on academic improvement, if we're going to focus on promoting a social and emotional well-being, I think we need to be mindful of the negative impact that that cell phone has on them while they're in our building. There was also a protocol that I put in place. Again, I didn't invent this wheel, I just borrowed it from another school. So that way parents know who to contact or who to call whenever they have a concern. It is spelled out for them now. So that is found on page 43 and 44. I also took the liberty to update the multi-tiered privilege system to incentivize improving student outcomes and rewarding good behaviors and good choices that they make. So that is also in there, lining up with, again, improving climate culture and student outcomes, as well as updating the search and seizure policy. This was a policy we already had in place. I just wanted it to match our actual practice. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
I move.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I move to approve the student handbooks for the Paul Smith School, Franklin Middle School, and the Franklin High School.
Motion been made to approve the student handbook and enters the changes to it. Because the books are going to approve, so we're just going to be approving the changes.
Got it.
So you good with that?
Yep.
Okay, to accept the changes within the student handbook and Paul Smith School, the Franklin Middle School, and Franklin High School. Do I have a second on that? Second by Glenn. Do I have any further discussion?
Can we talk about the new classes that are being added, because that is included in here in the program of studies, correct?
Not the computer courses that are being item, but the rest of them are, yes.
So,
Pretty much the exact same one.
the new computer science courses?
Yeah, we have that to talk about after for the board to talk about computer science.
But
So
are they included
They
in
would
the?
be after the board approves them.
Okay.
Yes.
Any further discussion?
Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? One abstention. The motion passes.
Okay, next topic is, can I skip over that?
Yeah. Did nominations.
Nominations, thank you, Tim, I skipped over that. I have the following teachers to nominate. Nominate Haley Gentile, grade 7-8 science teacher at the middle school, Andrew DeYoung, high school social studies teacher, Barbara Worth, extended learning and opportunities coordinator at the high school, and Robin Roper as a preschool teacher at Paul Smith School.
I move to accept the nomination as read by Superintendent Legal. Name the nomination.
Yep, got it, Paul. Okay, motion's been made to accept the nominations of new staff that was presented by Superintendent Legal. Do I have a second? Second by Glenn. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, please signify by accepting by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, the nominations are accepted.
Thank you very much. We have 4 happy teachers.
Dick, can you just, before I know you talked to the board earlier, can you just update everybody on where we stand and what's left?
Yes. So at this point in time, at the high school, we still need a guidance counselor, a PE health teacher, which we have a bead on, alternative school support staff paraeducator, and an ISS assistant, which we have a bead on as well. So we're looking good there. At the middle school, we are looking still for a Title I teacher, 2 Title I teachers, a library assistant. We have a bead on a health teacher, so that looks good. You still need a grade 4-6 teacher, Tim, and a grade 4-6 teacher.
We do have a beat on a Title I teacher.
We've got a bead on the Title I teacher, right? Then for district-wide, we are still looking for a special education out-of-district coordinator. And at the elementary school, we need 1 elementary grade 2 teacher and possibly a special ed case manager.
Do we wait till we have names, or do we make a general motion?
We need to wait till we have names.
Now you wait, so I'll bring them on board to start, Paul, but they'll officially get nominated in the September meeting. And then if we run into any issues, it's all pending board approval. So that'll work, that'll be fine. That's where we stand at this point.
Thank you, David.
I will tell you, we're doing a lot better than all other places in terms of the shortage of help. Okay, moving on, Staples donation. We received
Nope, Safer at School.
Safer at School, thank you. Safer at School screening. So the DOE is providing companies to do free COVID screening in schools. They started it, I think, the end of April last year. I talked with my school nurse about it. We are thinking that this would probably be a good idea to employ, is to get companies to come in. You can do targeted. So if you have high-risk things going on, you want to test like every week, like the football team, for example, or the volleyball team, which is an indoor team. You could do that. You could test classrooms of kids. A lot of the companies do pool testing, so kids would self-swab and they would test the pool, and then if there was a positive in the pool, then there would become an individual test. But it's a way of us trying to stay ahead of the virus and trying to pick up on cases before they bite us. I think that obviously it would require parent permission. We wouldn't do any of this without a parent wanting to participate, so parents would have the choice of opting into this or opting out. But my head nurse and I both believe that this would be a smart thing for us to consider, so that we can employ it, as judiciously as we need to for this school year. But I do not want to approach that or bridge that without the board approving us to move forward with, like I said, working with one of these companies to bring in testing, screening, I should call it.
I move to approve the New Hampshire COVID Safer at School screening program, April 28, 2021.
Okay, so motion been made to accept the Safer at School screening, SASS, COVID-19 testing. Do I have a second? Second by Maureen. Thank you, Maureen. Is there any discussion?
One question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's our liability doing it? As a district, if we're going to mean the liability for the nurse?
Well, the nurse wouldn't do it. The companies would come in and would do it, the contract with us. And I believe the DOE is pushing this all throughout the state, so I don't believe there would be much liability there. They wouldn't be doing it. But if you want, I can check with the attorney.
Oh, I guess I just don't understand the program then. I must have misheard something.
The program is to employ COVID screening
Yeah.
in your school
Yeah.
to pick up on anybody that's asymptomatic and positive, so that you can prevent the spread of the virus. So for instance, high-risk activities like indoor volleyball, for instance, or football, you could screen those kids once a week with pool testing.
Okay.
And pick up on a situation before you end up with a rec department situation, where you have a whole outbreak. So the more you can catch things in advance, the better off you can stave off having to have an outbreak within. And if you wanted to, you could do your whole school.
Well, I thought you were referring to the nurse doing a test if, once they got permission from the parent.
No.
if
And
that
what would
was a
happen,
possibility.
the way this would go out is we would put this out there to parents and say, look, we have the opportunity to screen our students.
Okay.
We need your permission to be able to do this. Your son or daughter is in what we consider to be a high-risk activity, or you could even do it in the classroom, but it would all be based on the situation on the ground. So if we started to have issues within the school, we might want them to come in and screen the whole school. So we could identify these and get these kids that may be asymptomatic but have the virus and get them, out of the school until they're better. There's a long document for you to review it at some point. No, I know, that's okay. You'll see it, it's in your drive.
Yeah, I started reading it, I think that's why.
And we actually met with one company that I was referred to that's doing this in Concord and somewhere else local. They started it actually last spring and had some pretty good success. So I just think it's another tool we can employ to try and keep COVID out of our schools the best we can. But the key thing for everybody is nobody would be tested unless a parent approved of it. We just wouldn't do that. So.
Is staff and the teachers available to do this test as well?
Potentially, if we needed to, and they were, approving of it, we could do that too. Yeah, it could be for staff also.
Delaney?
Yeah, I like your thoughts on targeted testing. Could you share your thoughts on the state recommendations or state guidance, which seem to indicate recommending 100% population testing on a once-a-month basis, whether it was like a rotating schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we would do is meet with the company we want to select, and I have my nurse reviewing the companies right now, and we would meet with them to talk about, what are your recommendations in terms of just universal screening, which is what you're talking about, once a month, test everybody in the district, versus more targeted screening of maybe some high-risk type of situations, and there may be certain situations within the school where kids work more closely together or have more significant needs, which may lend itself to maybe wanting to test more frequently than once a month. So but I would let us select the health company that's going to do it, and let us work with them on strategic ways to do that, because they've been doing this for a while now. So.
They use a statistical modeling. They take the highest risk sample N
Exactly.
versus minus B.
Yeah.
And if in the high risk sample there's one, then they'll gravitate down to the other risk groups.
Absolutely. That's how they do it.
Maureen?
Yes, the question I have is, when you send out information to the parents to yay or nay to have their child or children participate in this, are you going to have sort of like a deadline for this information to come in? Because,
Well, if it doesn't come in, we won't test their child.
okay.
We won't let it delay our plan. So if our plan is to test on a Friday, whatever comes in that's approved, those kids will be the ones that we would test. And, yeah.
Because I think this is very important, where only 41% of the population, shall I say, adults
could certainly be important in the younger grades where none of the kids are vaccinated and a lot of the kids are asymptomatic. So this is an attempt to try and address that issue as well.
Will there be one form that gives permission, or do you have to do it each time you're going to be doing the testing?
At the end of the approval, there's a parent approval.
And I believe the approval would be for the year.
For the year, okay.
That's my assumption, but I didn't look at the actual form. Yeah, I think it is though.
It is in the form.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, a motion and a second has been made. All in favor on the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? The ayes have it, the motion passes.
Okay. Next up, the art car. Dan Clark has been doing some.
Staples donation.
No,
I keep checking
I've been Kim driver for a year.
Staples donation.
Yeah, you hurry to get out of here or what?
I am, and I keep checking off the
I don't
next
blame
one I'm
him.
supposed
He's
to do.
hungry.
I'm one ahead of myself. Staples donation. So we've had 2 Staples donations, one at the middle school supplies and one at the high school for supplies, both totaling over our threshold, probably about $1,500 at each school. So I need the board to accept the Staples donations at the middle school and the high school.
So moved by Paul and seconded, I believe, by Glenn. Okay, is there any discussion on it?
Do we need a specific dollar amount on the motion? or-
I would say $1,500, yes, you should. Approximately $1,500
Per school.
per school.
So that'll be in the motion, approximately $1,500 per school. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, the donation's accepted.
Thank
Now you can go to the art
Now I'll go to the art car. So Dan Clark has been doing some research and has found a company that he would like to donate the art car to. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you and you can talk about the condition of the art car and what we think we want to do with it here.
It's the art car, I don't know if everybody knows about it prior to me being here, but I've been moving it for the last year and a half, trying to move it around it, all around it, and move it, but it's a 1996 Ford Contour. It's been sitting down back. It has 4 flat tires, batteries dead, brakes are not there. Push it in the river! Yeah. The battery's bad, the tires are bad. It will start with a jump start. I don't dare to move it because the tires are flat, there's no brakes. But with that being said, I figured that if we could donate it to this cause here for the kids for schools, what they'll do is they'll come get the car, no liability to the school whatsoever, and they will give us a tax receipt donation for the school. I did a value on the car as of 8/16, and for 96 Ford, rough condition is worth $127. This is beyond rough.
I've seen the miracles you can do with cars, Dan.
What's that?
I've seen the miracles you can do with cars.
Oh, I can. But, I guess it depends on how much money you want to spend. I mean, I could make this thing shoot fire if you want.
They're not gonna wanna take this car, just give it to Drew.
No, they will take it.
Okay,
They'll take it, yeah, they'll come and get it within a day. I've already talked to them about it, I already sent them the information on it. I filled out everything that's wrong with it. It's 25 years old, brake pedals to the floor, brake lines, etc., bad battery, tires dry rotted and flat, will jump start, and the rust is beyond known. I can't get
Give
it.
them all the addresses on Bow Street where all the junk cars are.
I could put them down and give us more money, but they will pick this car up at no cost to the school, and they will write a donation to the school. I don't know what that donation is. They say it could be up to $500, so that'd be in our favor.
Didn't we give you permission to dispose of the car back in
Yeah,
2018?
Came back.
So you want a motion? So is Dan looking for, Dan Clark looking for the motion to
donate
dispose
this
of that,
car.
donate that car to Cars for Kids?
Cars for Kids.
Yeah, so Glenn's gonna make the motion, I'll definitely second it to get that thing out of here. So do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? The car goes.
Finally.
All right. Then I had just two real quick announcements. One is opening day welcome back district to all of our staff is next Wednesday, September 1st. We will start at 8:45 on the football field here at Franklin High School. I would like to invite all of our board members, if you're available to come and be part of that, that would be great. That's next Wednesday, September 1st at 8:45 on the Franklin High School field. So if you would like to come and be part of that, it probably lasts about an hour and a half. It'll be the first time in 2 years we've been able to get our staff together, so it's gonna be kind of a nice thing to be able to do, even though we'll be spaced out. It's all weather permitting, so we're praying that the weather will be nice enough to be able to do that.
Dan, I'll need a couple tables.
You need some tables, Debbie? Yeah. Excellent. It will be outside, so everything's outside, so tables for Deb. And then the only other announcement is, I'm gonna turn this over to Denny Sylvester, he's gonna tell you about a night football game we're gonna pull off against Bishop Brady in October. So Danny, you wanna tell him the plan for that?
Sure.
Please, thanks.
Saturday, October 9th, we were due to play Bishop Brady at home at our normal 2 p.m. time frame. Dan has been chatting with me since last year about maybe getting a night game. Obviously, that means bringing portable lights in. We definitely talked about homecoming, which would be pretty special, but the logistics and setup of homecoming just doesn't allow for that to happen between our parade and our dance and whatnot. So next best thing was we played Bishop Brady at home, longtime rival, which kind of lost that flair with them through the years because there's been many years we haven't played them on the schedule. So we're looking to get that back, and an added element to the night game will be, we have introduced the Kaplan Cup, we call it, in honor of Coach Jeff Kaplan, who passed away, as many of you probably know. I believe it was February of COVID. He taught and coached here as well as Bishop Brady, so it was fitting to do a rivalry type of trophy between the two. Very simple, no MVP like we used to, so no politics involved. The winner simply takes the trophy home for the year and brings it back to the next year's game. As far as the lights go, it's a pretty simple process. There's really nothing else that changes by bringing in lights and having a night game. We have police coverage for day games. We will still have police coverage for the night game. The lights will be donated by Beck and Bellucci. One set doesn't normally cut it. If anybody's gone to a football game with portable lights, it is a little noisy because they're run by generators, but it is a very, very cool atmosphere, especially if you're not used to playing under the lights. So we're getting a second set of lights that'll be donated by MD Tractor, which our new coach has a very, very good relationship with. I have the relationship with Beck and Bellucci, so should be a pretty cool night. I will obviously coordinate this with Dan Clark. I believe part of the process, I know with MD Tractor is, I think they say that we have to get the lights here.
We have used them before here this year, so there's no problem as far as us picking them up. We know how to run them, operate them, the whole 9 yards, and return them, so.
What time's the game?
7 o'clock, sorry, 7 p.m.
October 9th.
October 9th, Saturday.
October 9th, yep.
We did think about moving it to Friday night, which that's your norm for football, Friday Night Lights. If anybody's ever heard of that, it's very popular. But moving the game from a Saturday to a Friday at this point means a very difficult time getting officials. So there was nothing wrong with leaving it on Saturday. It's still going to be a good night to have it. Plus that gives us all day Saturday to deal with the logistics of getting the lights and all that stuff. So it should be fun.
And I am finished until late items come.
Any questions for the superintendent? All right, let's move on to agenda item 10, which is our administrative reports. Julie, you saved us no coffee yet.
Did I see that? No break.
Did you set that up like that?
Purposely, so they don't take a break before my report.
So we'll start out with you with our curriculum report. Mostly, all of you have already received these reports, and hopefully you've read them over in your shared drive. They're always put in there, so the administration just do a very brief overview of their thing. Very brief overview. It's 8:36. So we'll start with Joe.
All right,
still
and I
have
am always
17
brief
we
because
still
my
have 17
report
viewers.
is in there. So if there's any questions, by all means, ask. I want to focus and highlight the last 2 weeks of summer PD. I put in a breakdown of what we did. We had between 18 to 26 teachers on any given day, and 10 days of really great district-wide discussions and collaborative work. The only thing I did want to share is Chris and I put together a slide that's going to start some of the work that we are going to do with staff next week. That were just some of their summaries based on the 2 weeks of PD, and it was entitled, "What are your hopes for the school year?" So I'm just going to pass that around, and if there are any questions on anything else in my report, please feel free to let me know. I can multitask, so.
Any questions for Joe? Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
All right. The curriculum report's done. We're gonna go to Rebecca. Rebecca will give her special education report.
So I'll do the same, I'll hit the highlights. One of the bigger changes on my report right at the top are our identified numbers. So we went from 259 when we left off in June, I believe, or July, and we are up to 278. And some of the factors that have impacted that are returned homeschool children. There are 3 or 4 that have re-enrolled in district after removing the homeschooling during the COVID. Not during the COVID, it's still here, but they have chosen to return. And then we've had several students return from out-of-district placements, both placements the district has initiated and also from Compass Classical Academy. That said, we've had about 7 enrollments this summer, students with intensive needs and not so intensive needs. So definitely an increase in numbers here. I'm curious to see how this fluctuates as the month goes on. Otherwise, again, extended school year was great. Hard work on behalf of everyone. Next month, you'll have the updated special education procedures plan to approve. So that can be uploaded to the district website as a resource for families. And then we performed as we should have on all state indicators that the DOE looks at to determine that we're doing what we need to do as a district, and we have no issues there whatsoever. And that is it.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any questions for Rebecca? All right, thank you. We'll go on to Paulsville School with Sue and Nicole.
And I'll try and be brief, but I have to mention my teachers who did summer school because it was 6 weeks of summer school. So I'm sorry, but this is important. I want to recognize Jen Weaver, Brianna Cummings, Sophie Carter, Kelsey Fleury, Jamie Gregg, Kenzie Nixon, Bonnie Gilbert, and Caitlin Green for their hard work. They really worked collaboratively together in 6 classrooms. The children were grouped so that each teacher had about somewhere between 2 and 4 reading levels. And the change in our kids' reading levels just over that 6 weeks was phenomenal. They also did other things like worked in the garden, planted flowers, did a theme on the ocean. So there were a lot of, they fed worms. So there were a lot of other things going on, but the focus was truly on reading and mathematics and taking kids from where they were to where they could be with intensive 6-week instruction, and it went very well. I have to mention Chrissy Brown too, because she pretty much flew solo in the preschool program and did a phenomenal job with her 8 kids. That impacted maintenance. So Dan Clark and the maintenance at PSS, because we had a 6-week summer school, that meant that the cleaning in certain parts of our building could not occur, and they have been eloquent in their work, but also in their ability to work around teachers. So I want to thank them very, very much. A couple of things happening coming back. Meet the Teacher Night is on September 2nd. If you'd like to pop in and just walk around the building. And directly after that, for those of you who have been in Franklin for a long time, most of you know we lost Leanne Miller in January. Suddenly, and we have purchased a commemorative bench in her honor, which is being dedicated the same night, so it will be September 2nd outside in our front garden, At 5:45, Nicole is graciously handing out the invites to everyone, so if you can join us, please feel free. Again, this is for Leanne Miller, 49 years of teaching at Paul Smith School. And I think I'll stop there because I was told to be brief. Thank you.
Any questions for Sue?
Yeah, one question.
Sure.
Do you know what the population was last year, would have been last year, had it not been for COVID, just a guesstimate?
Oh, you mean our opening numbers?
Yeah.
So when I looked at last year's, we were below what we are this year in these numbers by about 25 students.
Okay,
So we're further along than we were last year. These numbers, I need to tell you though, are very active right now. So I have lots of parents who have not registered their kids, but I know of them, so we're pursuing them.
And it's not for you not pursuing to be an active with it, because I see it every day.
Have you seen every single?
Every day. Every
Okay.
day, Sue, I see it out there, so
I don't
you're
know
very
what
active
else to
with
do
it.
other than to dance in the middle of the
No,
street
you
and
do
say,
it.
"Please."
Social media is the way to do it, and,
Yep.
it is, so I do see it, so I know you're very active.
So the
with
new
it.
way of doing it though is you can't have your child's teacher until you register your child.
I saw that, I
So
saw that.
we're getting them.
Good, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay, then we'll go on to our middle school report, and we're gonna go right from Ken doing his report, we're gonna go right to Jay afterwards, and Jay knows what, Jay knows. Like you're out there.
Sorry.
Good deal.
Robert Dunlap is telling me that my video is frozen, and it isn't, because I just checked. So, thanks, Robin. Thank you all. I put in another enrollment analysis, and to tell you the truth, the reason I put that in is because we were concerned, actually 2 years ago, that we graduated a lot more 8th graders than we had 4th graders come, and then last year we had a dip, and then all of a sudden, our predicted numbers for this year was at 350 at the end of last day of school, just counting hers that were coming to me and mine that were going to high school, and that's interesting how it's jumped over the course of the summer, and it will be continuing to be adjusted, just like Susan tells you, and it's amazing, because our kids aren't preschoolers and kindergartners, they're middle schoolers that are coming in. Talk a little bit about, quick talk about the last few days of school, because things happen after we had our last school board meeting. So a little bit about the Class Day Parade, the Grade A celebration, and the unbelievable graduation. It was an amazing experience to see our families out there on the green, and it was just like, it was like a college graduation, outdoors like that on the stage, and we are definitely going to do that again, weather permitting. Small. Just a little bit about summer school, the same kind of thing that we talked about before. And then candidates, I'm going to have more information on final candidates and changes in staffing once it's all finalized. So that'll be in my September report. I really wanted to take a minute. Geez, I didn't talk about her before, but Mrs. Barker, Joyce Barker is unbelievable. And what she does over the course of the summer is our only other full-time employee. And I'm sure that Susan goes through the same thing with your office staff, but Joyce, what she does is just incredible with registrations and scheduling and getting lists of kids and going into classes and all that, because every one of our kids has 5 classes a day, and they have 5 terms of allied arts, and all of that has to sort of be put in the mix and get information. So she's been working on that. It's not done automatically. It's all selected by the staff. And then that's really about it that I had. The rest of it is in the report. The one last thing, though, is that Taco Night is back. Taco Night is back, for those of you who aren't aware. For the first 2 years that we were here, it was one of the things that Jay and I did to introduce ourselves to the community. And we served tacos and we had families in. And the second year, we blew the doors off. We gave away all the food that we have and then some. We almost had to send people away. We're going to do it outdoors this year. We had a very successful 8th grade celebration that would have been our semi-formal indoors. We had it outdoors. We put all the cafeteria tables in front of the building around the grass. You can't walk on the grass. Not grass. You're not allowed. The kids don't walk on the grass. So we're going to have the 8th grade celebration. We're going to have the taco night outside. We're going to set up a buffet with tacos and watermelon. It'll be on the Wednesday night, which is the first, because I didn't want to interrupt your Thursday night activity. It's going to start at 5:30. It's open to the public, so you're welcome to come. We serve tacos, we serve watermelon, we have cold drinks, and we're going to have the PA system outside. We'll have question and answer. We'll introduce some of the staff, and you're all welcome to join us. So that's about it.
Any questions for Ken?
What date is that?
September 1st.
Wednesday night,
September 1st.
the 1st.
Okay.
At 5:30 after school,
Yep.
weather permitting.
Any other questions for Ken?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. The 8th grade celebration was a huge hit for the 8th graders. They loved it.
It's the beginning of a new tradition.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
loved
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So,
We'll go
Jay?
to our discipline
How's the
area
discipline
for-
going?
Right to Jay.
It's been a real struggle this summer. My report is blank because I've had no discipline, which has been great. I do have to say, though, if you all enjoy Mr. Darcy's energy at this time of night, you should see him at this time, like 12 hours earlier. It's the reason I look this tired when I try to keep it up with him. No, it's been a great summer, trying to get stuff ready, trying to get just trying to get some of the new leadership pieces together so that we can get all on the same board with all the new staff, so we can get the discipline model moving the way we have been for the last couple of years, and hopefully continue to reduce those numbers and to make more positive atmosphere in our school.
Thank you, Jay. All right, we're going to go right on to Carrie
Okay.
for her report.
And get the timer, no. I just want to remind school board members that the Portrait of a Grad event, Make or Break Year, which is the book that I think Superintendent Legallo gave every board member, is Wednesday evening, and you can still register for that. I have quite a few teachers that are going. I'm pretty excited about that event. So our enrollment for September is 279 students. And Deb, because you asked that question, I went back. So last year it was 267. So I just want to mention graduation real quick. We had our board meeting before graduation, because normally I put that in our June report. Our seniors, I think graduation this past year was very personal, and there was magic on that football field, so much so that we loved everything down to like the names of the signs that were arched around the field and celebrating the students and their achievements. So we actually had 51 students earn FHS diplomas and 9 earned adult ed diplomas. And I want you to know that of those adult ed diploma students, those were students who were projected to graduate in June of 2020, but they weren't able to do so. So they were our current students. So they finished up that extra year. And then over the summer, we had an additional student earn an FHS diploma and an additional adult ed diploma were earned over the summer through our summer program for our additional credits. Over the summer, during summer school, 106 credits were earned from our summer school program, which is, we're very excited about that for our students, especially the 2 seniors that could finish up some stuff. And then those of you that were at graduation did hear a lot of the data that came from the class of 2021, but I just wanted to repeat it in case the board had missed that. But 40% of that graduating class took running start classes, and 19% took classes at LRCC's campus. So they went over to Lakes Region Community College and took courses over there. 36% of that graduating class received honors cords, 30% of them were National Honor Society members, 34% were New Hampshire scholars, 36% were Golden Grads, and then it's 21.5 credits to graduate, but 34% of that class earned 25 to 29 credits, and 42% of them earned 30 credits.
Wow.
And just for fun, because I did the math, which is kind of, I'm bad at math because I joke about it, but the community service, the amount of time that that class donated to the community was equivalent to 325 days and 14 hours. So I just want to make sure that we highlight their achievements. Yes, Julie?
Can I just add one thing to Carrie's data, because the data is amazing, and I just want to share based on the manufacturing discussion and Carrie's data. We have a student going to Emerson College who already has 14 credits going into Emerson because all of the LRCC work that he did. So he's already got an entire semester done, paid for, and finished because of the work he did at Franklin High and is now accepted into Emerson.
And I did look when the New Hampshire, the manufacturing people were here, I took the course description for LRCC, and they're talking about, okay, the kids can take classes here for manufacturing, But what they didn't look at is the fact that we run a lot of running start classes here, like we run the composition for English, and we have a Spanish running start, and then with computer science we'll have more. So when you look at that list for the computer, for the manufacturing certificate and the degree that the kids can get, there's actually more credits they can earn towards that outside of manufacturing here on campus. So that's pretty exciting, and that's it. Questions?
This is fantastic, but how many people know of these statistics? How did this information flow out to the community?
It'll go on the annual report card next year. Right, it'll go to city council, and it goes out.
What about the rest of them?
Well, I think there needs to be a better presentation of what Terry just did. I mean, I sent you a message this morning because I could not find the number of graduates or the type of graduates, nor could I find the enrollment. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. It's just that, you know, it's just such good, wonderful information. I'm just wondering, is it getting out? Because Franklin has had, hopefully, had a bad reputation. I mean, these are great statistics, and they should be flaunted out to everybody.
I do know that they were shared with the community through Judith Ackerson. She had reached out and she shared it in her newsletter that she sends out. But I do want to have it like highlighted on our website. Like, so when you come to the Franklin High School page, there's pieces. Yep.
I think I share, you know, when you say this information, we have the social media, and it really needs to, because we talk about the three modalities to where, you know, hearing, seeing, talking about it. Obviously, that's verbal, but we've got to get people talking about it. And just because it's in the newspaper doesn't mean it's going to be read, because the minute someone sees the words, they stop reading. So it's got to be shared verbally, and even, you know, photographs or big sign, like maybe something down at the City Hall, a poster, something visual.
So we actually have a young man who's a senior who graduated this past year, who's part of this class, and a young lady who graduated the year before, and they reached out to me. They're making a movie, like creating a movie. They've been working with Lee Webb. Yes, the one that's going to Emerson, yes. About the pandemic. And there's a whole bunch of interview questions for me to talk about of the students and the staff and the community. And so they're going to record me, and they're making this movie piece. So my plan was to put this information in that. Like, so there'll be a video format that will be shared around, which is just another medium, like you said, reading and hearing and doing those pieces, and visual, yes.
Can you send that information out to me? I don't know if anybody else would, but I could have it in my pocketbook and say, hey, did you know this?
It's true, though. If that's true, I do understand what you're saying when you say that. Like marketing, which is why I've been here for so many years.
We'll work on it as teams.
And we have 13 current viewers, but we've had 108 views over the course of the evening. And we peaked at about 24 when people were talking about all of that. 24, 25. So we've had a pretty good audience.
Any other questions for Carrie? You know, Tim, I know school's been back, but how's discipline? How was the summer thing? And
Good. Just really busy getting ready for the start of the school year. So, you know, we've done a lot of work this summer. We have a lot more work to do here in the next few weeks.
You and Jay are comparing notes to see what school is better.
It's not a competition. As long as you're winning.
Thanks, guys.
Do not compete. As long as you're in
All right.
first place, we're not competing.
So that takes care of our administrative reports. Superintendent Legallo has one late item. Several late items. Okay, I thought you just had one.
So I received an email from the Andover School Board Chair that I have given to all of you, or Vice Chair, I should say. The Andover School District is ending their high school tuition agreement with Merrimack Valley in 2024. And they are gathering information about 5 surrounding school districts, and Franklin is one of them. And they are asking us if we are interested in starting to talk with them about the possibility of including the Andover High School age students with the Franklin High School students.
they'll end up with just ours or back from everything.
Yeah, well, like I said, there's 5 of them. So I'm bringing this to the board to see if you want to engage in any kind of process to be considered for having Andover students come to Franklin High School.
Not an effort, no.
I don't think it's a bad process to do. Andover students used to come to Franklin years ago. And I think it's another way to increase our enrollment. It's another way, we're an open enrollment school anyways, but I don't think having a conversation, personally, I don't think having a conversation with between the superintendents or the school boards and the superintendent or whatever, I mean, they're just exploratory, but again, it's another opportunity to bring more students into our high school. It's my opinion.
I agree. I think that we should definitely explore it. I think it would be a good opportunity for our community and for Andover's community.
I agree, and particularly with what we are having to offer and what we saw earlier with New Hampshire Forward, this is a great opportunity for us to put our high school on the map, put Franklin on the map.
Roughly they have?
I do not, I didn't do any research, Deb.
Okay.
Other than you can get the email to bring it to you, but I certainly can start you research if there's interest. I guess
Yeah, we're taking her around 25. 25 at the Merrimack Valley High School.
Doesn't hurt. Do you want a motion?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll make a motion to allow the superintendent to talk with the Andover School Board to explore their students coming to Franklin.
I second that.
A motion been made to allow the superintendent to speak with the Andover School Board for possible high school tuition agreement. And that was seconded by Christy. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? 1 abstention. The ayes have it. Motion passes.
And we'll move on there. In your drive were the 3 school emergency operation plans. I need to be able to have Jay send them to the state by September 1st. Thank you, Jay. September 1st. We had to create some annexes, which Jay's going to hand out to you right now. So that to include with our existing emergency plan. We can take questions about any of the annexes except for the bomb scare annex. If there's questions about the bomb scare annex, we need to go in and out in public. So nobody don't disclose information that we shouldn't disclose. Okay, I don't know if you want to give a real quick.
Real quick, so there are 9 additional annexes when our emergency operations plan was reviewed by Homeland Security. They found there's a couple pieces we were missing, 9 of them. And so we drafted up 9 of these, sat as a committee, along with the fire department, police department, and other agencies, went through these, got some edits through, and then approved these to come to you guys so that I can submit this to the state and make them happy with it.
Are these general annexes throughout the state?
Yes, required annexes.
Yeah, standard operating procedure.
Yeah, standard language.
Yep.
Are these kind of boilerplate?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, are these kind of boilerplate?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what we mean by standard language.
These are confidential documents that stay with it, so it's not, they aren't public documents. Homeland Security does not have these go out to public, just for your knowledge. They're part of our confidential book.
I think the motion to approve the EOP plans as presented, including annexes, the additional annexes.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the emergency plans and the annex Seconded by Cecile. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, the plans are accepted.
Thank you very much. Jay, thank you for all your hard work on that.
I have some.
I have another one.
Okay, sorry.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
All right. The last item I have is the computer science classes at the high school. We have secured a computer science teacher, and we have come up with course descriptions. Gary's gonna talk to you about that real quick.
So our computer teacher, our computer science teacher, is very talented, and she has her master's, and she was teaching AP computer science classes at her previous school. So these are in addition to the computer classes that are already listed in the program of studies. But the board should have copies of the late items. But there's Google Apps class. I think the biggest thing for me is that it's 2021, 2022, and there's so many jobs that require knowledge of computers. And we have kids who do coding with our robotics program. And the fact that we can have freshmen and sophomores take a class that's AP, so they can get their college credit as a freshman and a sophomore, is very exciting to me. Because if students do well in an AP class, when they're in high school, they're more likely to select a four-year program to go to. So all the classes that we'd like to offer are listed here. And Joanna, the new teacher, is very resourceful. She actually has a lot of, she's been doing college, like Running Start classes through Manchester Community College. So she can bring that partnership with us to here at the high school in addition to additional pieces with LRCC. So this is a list of the classes that she has, and you'll see that most of them say there's no prerequisite. So students have to have a half credit in computers to earn their high school diploma from the state. And there's talk about increasing that to at least a credit or more. So by having these classes, it's going to be a variety. Like, it's going to hit a lot of our students that have been interested. And I've been talking to some incoming freshmen who are into gaming and are into designing games and all kinds of different things and are coding. And so I've had some parents that are like, wait, you have a new teacher, what's that, what are the classes gonna look like? And I said, well, board's going to approve them, but we have kids and families who are already reaching out, who are very excited about the offers that we'll be able to have in our computer science program. I don't know if you have questions. She will also be teaching the SolidWorks class in the spring for us. Yeah, and she's also taking over yearbook. Wow. She's very dynamic. She was going to come tonight. I'm like, it's okay. But if you wanted some data, there are currently like 1,200 jobs in New Hampshire right now that they can't fill that are just in the computer sector. So if we can get them interested, freshman and sophomore year, then the chances are that they'll be able to, like, if we hook them soon, and then the prediction is that in the next 23 years, those programs that are out there right now for kids to go to college and for high school kids and kids to go to college to do cyber, anything and everything, we're only going to be producing 22,000 workers, and we're going to be under an estimate by 520 jobs that we will not be able to fill. So I think when we talk about our kids in our community, they love technology, they love computers. Being able to have these additional courses is very exciting to me. With the program for manufacturing, I want to have lots of tracks for the kids, different offerings. Do you have questions about the classes?
Any questions?
I make a motion to approve them as presented.
A motion been made to accept the additional classes as was presented by Principal Charette. Do I have a second? I'll second it, actually. Do we have any further discussion? See no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The course is accepted. Yeah. Quickly.
That's all I have.
Deb?
I just want to remind everybody that the delegate assembly is October 16th, and we have a deadline of September do you have any resolutions that we would like to bring forward?
No.
I'm sorry, not bring forward.
We already approved them.
To tell me how you want me to vote for you. There we go.
And I figured that
In September.
we're gonna bring those to the September 15th meeting.
Right,
So
okay.
we'll have them printed off, we'll have plenty of time, so.
But they should have been emailed to all of us as board members from NHSBA.
No other late items?
No other late items.
All right. Lee, we're at our second portion of our public participation. You have patiently sat there and waited. I have to give you credit for it. Along with the young lady, if she has any questions.
It's kind of a, oh, I know, you want me to, okay. I want to keep Ken happy. First of all, I want to say thank you to Carrie for giving access to Riley and Skylar for their documentaries. It's terrific. I'm glad you're doing it. I do have a question for...
Middle school too.
What's that?
For the document, we're in it too.
Oh, good. So am I, but they'll probably edit the hour and a half down to about 5 minutes. And I'll talk to you later, Ken, about it. I did have a question about the manufacturing program. And I sort of mentioned it to them as they exited, but is there a way of aptitude assessment? And this would also be for Carrie's program, which you just mentioned. In terms of making sure they're channeling the students into an area that's the best fit for them. Is that an element of that program?
We have middle school and high school Naviance surveys that we do.
Yeah.
And another one called a WATU, which is another survey, it's career-based survey inventory.
Yeah.
With a middle and high school.
Yeah, because it'd be also true for the computer program. One question. Is there a threshold number, which is once it's surpassed in terms of numbers of infections, the school would then close down? Is that a predetermined number?
It's not predetermined. It's done in consultation with DHHS.
Okay. The other thing is, today, I went online to the SAU website and tried to find an agenda for tonight's meeting and couldn't find it.
Who's that?
It was, I'm sure it was, which just means maybe it wasn't as user-friendly for people like me.
When you go on the SAU, you gotta go into documents.
Oh.
And click on school board.
Okay.
Under the school board, it comes down, there's drop downs of members. you know,
Okay,
blah,
because
blah,
I
blah.
went
Talks
to the
agendas in there.
meeting, it says the meetings, and I clicked on the meeting, so when it came up this meeting tonight,
Right.
and usually on something like that, there's a link that goes to the agenda, and then the agenda, the link to the individual items, which I couldn't find. And what's curious
We
if...
don't, and that's a discussion we're gonna be having next month, is about posting our packets online.
Because I was just curious as if that reopening plan was online to be reviewed. It was, the draft was online tonight or today and had been for several days. Because I looked at the participation from parents and I was somewhat disheartened that nobody's here.
And I know that
It's on the city website.
Audrey also sent it out with all the citizens of Franklin that participate in the emails that come from the city. It came out through that, because I received it.
Okay.
I didn't receive it that way, but it is on the city site.
Okay, so, well, it was there if you could find it.
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm somewhat chagrined that there wasn't more public participation in something that's as important as the reopening plan. But that's it, that's my piece. Was I under 3 minutes?
We did have.
I was 3 minutes, not cumulatively, right? I mean, I had my 3 minutes in front of
Yeah, but
me.
you're still going now.
We had a YouTube audience of over 20, and right now our total visits is 113. So we've had people watching, they just didn't come here in the seats.
Okay.
Did you wanna say anything?
I have a lot of questions in my head that I can't pull apart right now, so I'll email people.
Just feel free, if you want, you can just reach out to Superintendent Gallo. Give me your questions, and you can call him.
Hi Lily, how are you? I'm sorry I can't make it Thursday.
No, that's okay.
I hope it goes well.
I did want to know, as as a gentleman, I did ask her first.
I know you did. So I just want you to know, just reach out to the superintendent. All right, so,
Question for Carrie, I'm sorry.
yep,
Our students should have already picked their classes, right? I think I talked to you in the beginning of the month, and like no one, I
So-
never received a call
So
back from
the
a counselor.
teachers recommended the students for classes.
Okay.
And they're not live yet, so the kids can't see their live days.
Okay,
They will be
so
though.
I still need to get that because my son is coming over from Compass Sun. I talked to you on the phone, earlier this month, so.
Yeah,
I'll
but you did classes too, right?
No. No, he wants computer classes.
That's what, yeah, sorry, yeah.
He wants computer.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I'll give you a call tomorrow, Wednesday.
And Melissa Franny's gonna be in.
Melissa, right,
The guidance counselor.
Okay. thank you.
R1, then, counselor.
Yeah, but alphabetically. It's this guy.
all right. That closes up public participation. Unfortunately, board members, we do have to stick around because we have more non-public. Or we can exchange it and shorten it up, and we're gonna go to double meetings.
Are you going to non-public or?
Yeah, we're going to non-public.
So, all right. So, I guess I.
Yeah, you have to end the video. Thank you, everybody.
So we're moving to go to non-public, and thank you all very much.
Yeah, Deb, you'll just.
Yeah, there's some